Do you think other people think that you're the Messiah?
Came out of a conference speaking, and when I walked out the door, this mad lady comes running up to me and tries to kidnap me.
What?
Yeah. My job is to share a truth that everyone's been told is not real. It was 19 years ago, on January the 8th of 2007. I was down and out and lost everything. Lost my home, and I'm having to apply for free lunch for my kids. Sick with Crohn's disease. And if anybody has Crohn's knows how bad that is. You know, you're in the restroom 10 times a day. I was at 20 times a day at that point in my life.
In January of 2007, while fishing with friends in North Carolina, Chris Bledsoe witnessed a series of bright, intelligently moving orbs in the sky. That moment doesn't end. It starts a series of unexpected and seemingly miraculous events.
And then my Crohn's was gone. I had no more sickness.
In the days and weeks that follow, the phenomena continue. The lights appear again and again, sometimes at a distance, sometimes directly over his home. He reports numerous encounters that don't resemble crafts, lights, or UFOs at all, but what he describes as a luminous, feminine presence, deeply unsettling in its archetypal familiarity. Her communication seems to go beyond the cliches and platitudes of normal contact experiences. They touch on humanity's deep moral decay, cycles of civilizational collapse, judgment, the apocalypse, and renewal. They revolve around humanity reaching a threshold.
I came back excited to tell it. That's when the next 5 years of darkness I talk about in my book started.
His UFO experiences only served to make him more of a pariah in his local community of Fayetteville, North Carolina, where fundamentalist Christianity is the only way, and anything paranormal is considered demonic. NASA and the CIA show up at Bledsoe's door. And not just anybody at NASA and the CIA. I'm talking about a high-level NASA mission controller who has worked on launches at Cape Canaveral since the Challenger missions in the 80s.
And he said I was at the dinner table with the president and handed me that.
He said that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And this, yeah.
Scientists, military, and other intelligence officials follow suit. They grill Bledsoe on his experiences. Some imply that certain dates and symbols he's given by the lady align with things they're already monitoring and have seen from other authoritative sources.
So they have like a scientific model of how these angels work at NASA.
They know a lot more than we know, than we think they do.
I personally don't know what Chris Bledsoe experienced and continues to experience to this day, but I know that his story doesn't sit at the edge of history forever. It's either going to collapse under scrutiny or force us to redraw the map. In this special episode of American Alchemy, we have a markedly different conversation than the one that Chris Bledsoe is used to having.
He took you to Zanesville, Ohio, where you recovered a little piece of metal?
Yeah.
Do you know who's from Zanesville, Ohio?
I do. T. Townsend Brown, right?
What?
Instead of just retelling his story, we make some pretty mind-blowing connections from it. Ones involving secret societies with access to time travel, anti-gravity experiments done in mid-century America, space metal with curious properties that interact with consciousness in weird ways, what exists on the dark side of the moon, and what the world will look like in the next decade. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and prepare to ascend into the astral plane with this week's American alchemist, Christopher Bledsoe.
This has been a long time coming. I'm here with Chris Bledsoe, who many call kind of a super experiencer because, you know, I was just rereading your book, UFO of God, and your life is really just remarkable. You've had all these incredible, deep experiences, and I want to talk about those experiences, but I also want to talk, because your story is well known at this point. I also want to talk about some of the deeper philosophies that you've kind of come into based on your experiences and maybe have kind of a metaphysical conversation. But I want to start with this very interesting discussion that we just kind of sparked up as you were walking in, which is you have this golden pin on your jacket. What is that pin?
Well, that pin was given me by someone everybody has read about, right? Down at Cape Canaveral, without saying names.
Okay.
And it signifies being off planet. So from what I'm told, the people that get these have been in space before.
So astronauts, pretty much.
Right.
And why do you think this person gave that pin to you?
At the time, I had no clue other than what they were telling me. It involved taking me into the astronaut crew quarters and going through a whole thing because I was, in other words, when this thing first happened, this person from NASA came to my house with a backpack and a whole lot of credentials that had everything from Area 51 to the CIA and all that combined, NASA. And he tested the whole family with metal. He put a piece of metal in my hand. I was the last one to be tested. So all four of my kids and my wife, they all went into this one room. So she got Ryan. He got Ryan's the first one and kind of made it secret. He took Ryan into a room, tested him and said, now you go get the next person, but don't tell them. So he went out and got each person in the family, tested them with this metal. They brought me in last and I had no idea what I was doing. I sat down on the edge of the bed. It was in Ryan's room. And he put this piece of metal right here. And I said, what do you think of that? I said, well, it looks like a piece of aluminum, like a postage stamp. That size, thin.
Was it light?
Very light, yeah. It was kind of a dull gray. It wasn't like shiny. It was aluminum of some sort. And he reaches in his backpack and pulls out another piece of metal that was different. And it was like aluminum foil. Looked like foil. And it wasn't crease. You couldn't crease it, but it would wrinkle, but it would hold back out, but it wouldn't crease. You couldn't crease it. It would kind of roll up and then straighten out. But when he put that in this hand, it somehow or another created this current that went through where it was communicating. This part of the metal was communicating with that part of the metal. And when that happened, it caused my eyes to roll back, and he reached up and snatched it out of my hand real quick and said, why you? This is in the book, by the way. And I had no idea what happened. He said, why you? This close. I said, excuse me, what do you mean, why me? And he said, well, I would have known you were lying about being taken if you hadn't had a reaction to this. And he said, I've only ever seen 2 others, and they were nothing like yours. That's what he told me. So that started the next 2 or 3 years studying with them. And I'm being kind to my friend without saying his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. Can I say who it is? Because I think it's Tim Taylor, who's a NASA mission controller, who, his name is now sort of out there. And we should definitely be respectful to him as somebody who doesn't maybe want to do public interviews himself, but I think he's put himself out there enough to.
Yeah.
So who is this Timothy Taylor figure showing up in Bledsoe's life? He's a mysterious rocket scientist who's done mission control for NASA since the 80s. That part is not really disputed, and it's well documented in his autobiography, Launch Fever. At one point, Tim Taylor even had a small YouTube account with videos showing his deep levels of access to NASA facilities. He's also taken people like Bledsoe through Kennedy Space Center. Religious studies professor Diana Pasulka, along with others, have said that he's worked directly with Elon Musk. But where it gets interesting is that he's also popping up in the lives of numerous UFO experiencers, claiming that he's a time traveler and works for an angel. Basically, he exists at the intersection between rigorous, real-world aerospace work and totally insane UFO lore, and that's why he's still American Alchemy's most requested guest. Some of the things that Tim Taylor told Chris would wholesale overhaul our understanding of reality, if at all true.
Really smart guy, like genius level. And
Really?
yeah, I enjoyed his company. We did a lot of stuff together. We traveled together. We were able to recover some metal together.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Where was that?
I was in Ohio.
In Ohio?
Yeah.
Where in Ohio?
In a little town called Zanesville.
Zanesville,
yeah.
Zanesville, Ohio.
Yeah.
Do you know who's from Zanesville, Ohio?
I do. T. Townsend Brown, right?
What? He took you to Zanesville, Ohio, where you recovered a little piece of metal?
Yeah. A pretty good piece, about that big.
You're sure you went to Zanesville?
Yeah. In fact, I went in a machine shop, he and I, and had a piece sawed off the metal, which he took with him. And we gave the other piece back to the person that had it. And I knew the person, and he wouldn't give it to anyone in the world, but he called me, and he drives up in his yard, and there's this red piece of glowing. He sees this thing over his house, and it goes away when he drives up, but there's a piece of red glowing metal in the yard. He lets it cool, picks it up, and puts it in a shoebox, and there it stays for 15 years.
No way.
And when he found out about me and read the story, he calls me and says, I got something I want you to see. And so I called Taylor, and he and I flew up there.
This is either engineered to make me excited, or this is the most remarkable story ever.
I almost lost it during this part of the interview. Zanesville, Ohio is where Thomas Townsend Brown was born. To me, Townsend Brown is the most interesting historical figure in the 20th century that no one knows about. I've independently uncovered an absurd amount of information that leads me to believe that Townsend Brown essentially discovered anti-gravity in the 1950s. He was funded by the same physics patrons at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, that sent science down the wrong path with quantum gravity in 1957. He was also backed by the highest levels of CIA and aerospace. There are even videos of Townsend Brown at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, celebrating because his experiments presumably worked. Here he is with a bottle of champagne. And we know, due to real declassified documents written by the head of Australia's nuclear program, Harry Turner, and often cited by UFO whistleblower David Grush, that University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill was waist-deep in anti-gravity research. We also have a deathbed confession of French aerospace representative Jacques Cornillon saying that Townsend Brown's experiments worked in Paris in the Montgolfier facility in 1956.
The tests were very, very, very tricky. It was sensitive to so many things in vacuum. Finally, it worked, so that was a positive result.
And that's just the tip of the spear. We also have Carl Nell, who helped set up Army Futures Command, which led all tech modernization efforts for the Army, implying that Townsend Brown made breakthroughs in the world of gravity.
Jesse's done a number of podcasts looking into Townsend Brown and some other very interesting like heretical technologies. So I'd invite people, an unsolicited plug, to check out some of Jesse's podcasts.
Not to mention NASA's top scientist in electrostatics, Charles Bueller, literally leaving NASA to start a propellantless gravity-based propulsion system that he says is a derivative of Townsend Brown's work.
The term asymmetric electrical pressure is similar to Thomas Townsend Brown's research into asymmetrical capacitors.
Those older papers and that older subject matter is probably valid for most of the point.
I could go on, but I'll spare you. The fact that Chris Bledsoe was taken to Zanesville, Ohio, an otherwise completely unremarkable little Ohio town, seems like a very unlikely coincidence. And the fact that the goal there was to retrieve an exotic piece of metal seems even more unlikely, especially given that Tim Taylor was escorting Bledsoe there. As you're about to hear in this conversation, there are tons of other bizarre connections between NASA mission controller Tim Taylor and mid-century anti-gravity inventor Townsend Brown. This episode is sponsored by Superpower. On this show, we spend all of our time trying to understand reality, but most of us are simply guessing when it comes to our own health. With conventional healthcare, you're firing totally blindly. You go to the doctor, you get a few basic labs, and you're told everything looks normal. But that thing that doesn't feel great, the chronic headaches, the stomach pain, the back pain, you don't ever really get insight on any of it. You don't get the proper data you need, you get no actionable insights, and no real plan. That's why Superpower caught my attention. Superpower gives you a deep look at what's actually happening inside your body. It's a single blood draw, either at home or a nearby lab. And they measure over 100 biomarkers, way more than a standard physical. You get real data on things like hormones, metabolism, heart health, vitamin and mineral levels, even environmental toxins. Toxins that can accumulate and cause very bad things to happen in your body. What I like is that Superpower doesn't stop at the numbers. They turn those results into a clear, personalized action plan. What to focus on with nutrition. What supplements actually make sense for you. Lifestyle adjustments. You can even get your true biological age and can track how that changes over time. Instead of guessing when it comes to your health, you finally have a map. Your full health blueprint activated with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce their price to just $199, but for a limited time, our listeners get an additional $20 off with code ALCHEMY. Again, that's $20 off with code ALCHEMY. Head to superpower.com and use code ALCHEMY at checkout for $20 off your membership. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Please make sure to mention this podcast to support the show.
And so if there's a connection between this NASA mission controller who's obsessed with UFOs and this mid-century anti-gravity inventor, and then you're literally going to Zanesville, Ohio to collect UFO material, which is where that's a random place. And that's where Townsend Brown was born in 1905. And there are newspaper, clippings of him creating, wireless telegram basically at the age of 12 or so.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. True story.
That's so crazy.
And I can show you the medal. I'll give you a picture of it.
Can't, please?
Yeah.
Can I feel the medal?
Well, I don't own it.
You don't own it. Okay. Yeah, Tim has it. I would love to see the picture. Yeah. And learn anything else about the Zanesville trip. That's just fascinating.
Tim got it originally, and then Dr. Putoff got another piece of it.
Putoff got another piece.
So I took Tom DeLong and Lou Elizondo to Zanesville, or to Pennsylvania, or Ohio, I mean.
You took him to Ohio, to Zanesville?
I took him to the same guy's house and got them a piece of it as well.
Were Tom DeLong and Lou aware of Townsend Brown?
I didn't discuss it with them.
You didn't discuss that with them?
No.
So,
but that's where some of their metal came from. Plus some that I had. I had 3 pieces of it.
Do you think Putoff knows about Townsend Brown?
Yeah.
He does?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, he told me he met him.
Yeah.
But that he never, he didn't know how far he got, sort of thing.
Right.
But how it can be a little cheeky, but interesting.
Yeah.
For the audience, I mean, I'm sure they know this, but I'm obsessed with this mid-century anti-gravity inventor, Thomas Townsend Brown, who I am very convinced made real updates in the world of gravity. He was a very nuts and bolts, inventor, and he worked at the highest levels of military government with every kind of aerospace company you could guess. Sure. I mean, there's an FBI document on him saying he was the foremost radar expert in the Navy. And he was in charge of the Philadelphia experiment, actually, which has all this lore about it. And who knows whether the, prima facie story of that is true. But he was at, Martin Vega the year that Skunk Works formed.
Right.
He, knew Curtis LeMay, knew Bill Lear, the inventor of the Learjet.
Right.
He was being funded by the guys who were sending physics down the wrong path while he was doing his, I think, more vital kind of anti-gravity experiments. But the kind of subplot of his life is that gravity and time are very interrelated in general relativity. Yep. And what I found so fascinating is I made this whole documentary on Thomas Townsend Brown. And at the end of the documentary, I make this connection that Tim Taylor told your son, Ryan Bledsoe, that he was part of a secret time travel group in Nassau in the Bahamas. Yeah. and that Thomas Townsend Brown was the president. And even then, maybe I would have dismissed it out of hand, but I had become this amateur historian of Townsend Brown, and he would always go to Nassau in the Bahamas. And then if you read Tim Taylor's biography, Launch Fever, he's in Nassau a lot. So that does kind of place them both in,
It's called
in Nassau at some time.
It's called the Nassau Group.
The Nassau Group.
Yeah.
So he took you to was the piece of metal, this UFO metal in Zanesville, related to Townsend Brown at all? Or?
Well, there was a lot of conversation about that, and the amount of activity around that place, he said, was all part of the land, because where this metal was found, it was near the Indian Serpent Mound. Right. So they know that there's a lot of activity. And he told me stories about Townsend Brown.
What did he say about Townsend Brown?
Well, his daughter was doing a book, and Tim was helping her with that book.
Tim was helping her with the book.
He helped write that book, her book.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I do know I found an Amazon review from his daughter about Tim Taylor's book, Launch Fever.
Right.
And this was before anybody knew about, Tim Taylor, because he hadn't even been written about, pseudonymously in American Cosmic by Dana Pasulka. This is in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
So he was helping Linda Brown write her book.
Yeah.
Sure was. Know that. That's amazing.
Fact.
And what did he say about Townsend himself?
He told me he'd heard stories of these little things coming and landing in his yard and getting out and giving him information.
That's real. Well, at least according to his daughter did a sort of AMA on, Ask Me Anything on Reddit. She talked about beings coming down and then entering, I think it was like they were in the kitchen with her dad and her, and they were these sort of pale-skinned, looked alien, like looked from like they were from another planet or had existed in another environment. And they talked all night, and then, they wake up the next morning. She thinks it's a dream. And then 2 nights later, they're at dinner, and she brings up the dream, and Thomas Townsend Brown goes, "That wasn't a dream," or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Did he ever insinuate on what the Nassau group, this time travel group in the Bahamas, was doing?
He didn't. He just told me at one point that he thought I may have to go hide out there a while.
Really?
That was
in Nassau
when it really first happened, way back. Because it was a dangerous place. The whole world was different in 2008. It was the highest secured thing in the world. The UFO was more classified higher than the nuclear bomb.
But you would have to hang out in Nassau.
Well, they mentioned that I may have to go there for protection.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what's there?
I don't know. That was all he told me.
He writes in Launch Fever, his biography, about flying these cargo jets back and forth between Florida and Nassau.
Right.
And I think the guy he was flying with was like selling drugs, and he didn't even know about it. Like it was like he was just kind of being like along for the ride or whatever.
Right.
But then he says some really trippy things around, he goes, time moved differently in Nassau. But he's saying it like it's like island time,
Right.
So it's like, and then you're like, is that coded? Because he's telling you, that in Diana Pasulka about the Adjustment Bureau and like, timeline hopping.
Right.
And then he's saying time moves different in this Nassau group, but in Nassau. But then he's also telling your son and you that he's in a secret time travel group with Townsend Brown in Nassau. So I'm like, is he writing in code there?
Yeah. Those guys are all about, they're so super secretive. They'll tell you things and code like that. And it's up to you to get it or not. But yeah.
I want to meet the Nassau group. How do we do that?
I have no idea. I don't know how I would find them or what. That was something told to me years ago, and Ryan heard it, and it never left me. But as far as where and how and who, I don't know. We never got involved.
Yeah, because it's so like the world's so interesting. Because he also, I believe, he told you and I think Diana Pasulka that he said read the Adjustment Team or watch the Adjustment Bureau.
Yep.
Which is the original was a Philip K. Dick book.
Right.
And then the movie with Matt Damon, and it's all about adjusting little variables to change timelines.
Right.
And he viewed his role in reality as doing that.
Right.
And so do you think he actually viewed his role as doing that as part of this sort of timeline adjustment team?
You mean Tim?
Tim Taylor, yeah.
He's told me, he was the one who told me to watch the movie. He said, that movie was created for a reason. Watch it. It's a lot like that. And then he said, and in that movie, you'll find a character named the Hammer. And he said, and I work for the Hammer. And the Hammer works for God. And I'm like, you got to tell me more than that. And that's all he would tell me. He said, I work for the Hammer, and the Hammer works for God.
And what do you think the Hammer is?
Well, in the movie, he's like an archangel. He's the guy that the lesser beings couldn't stop what was happening because of love, if you watch the movie.
That's so fascinating.
So they send the Hammer down to take care of it. And, of course, I won't spoil the movie, but yeah.
It ends up well. But, yeah, whoa. I mean, do you think that he's in touch with a celestial being, with an angel?
He insinuated that, and I can probably believe that. Yeah, something.
Yeah,
whether it's an angel or what, I don't know.
So what would because he seems to show up in a lot of super experiencers' lives. So there are people who've had experiences here and there, and then there are people like you who have repeated experiences and a lot of interactions with this other world.
Right.
And I found it very interesting that he showed up in Charles Hall's life, and then he shows up in your life. I think he knew Whitley Strieber as well.
Yep.
Did you say Timothy Taylor?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good friend of ours.
Oh, so you know Timothy Taylor.
Mm-hmm. He came here because he found out about Charles. And that was when his daughter, the one who had the baby, was like, what was she? Maybe in 5th grade when they came the first time? Yeah,
No. Why do you think he became interested in your story?
My wife can answer all questions.
Because he realized that as far as he was concerned that Charles was the real article was legitimate. And as I say, it's really concerned me because I've tried to email other people because he brought other people to meet us and visit with us. One of the guys cooked right here in my kitchen, and so I tried to contact those people because I had emails for them, and I never got a response about what happened to him.
So, what do you think it is with him? Do you think there's some mandate from the Hammer, from this angel or something, to interact with experiencers?
If he's being truthful about that, I would say that's probably correct. There's some kind of mandate guiding him. So he's definitely connected. I mean, big time.
Do you think he was being truthful, or?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you wonder if it's all smoke and mirrors designed to throw you off course, but I listened to everything. I worked with him for 3 or 4 years. Before Diana met him, I introduced Diana to Tim. We were working on crazy stuff like stem cell research, and I have no idea what that is and what proteins are and anything medical, right? I'm a carpenter, and yet I'm reading papers at night that they would send me, and my job was to draw whatever came out of me, whatever I saw. And so usually every week I'm sending in some sort of diagram of cells and all kinds of things.
Whoa.
Yeah.
As you know, on American Alchemy, we cover a lot of technology that goes beyond human limits. This is about technology that helps the body catch up and feel good. I'm talking about the iRestore LED face mask. a red light therapy system that uses clinical grade wavelengths to boost skin cell energy production. The same exact principle used in the top recovery clinics and bio-optimization labs in the world. I've been using it most nights, 10 minutes while I'm reading, prepping for a show, or decompressing. It's completely hands-free, comfortable, and engineered to deliver consistent light intensity across the face. Not that uneven scatter most cheaper masks use. It feels like your face is taking a warm bath. What it's doing is called photobiomodulation, stimulating mitochondria to repair tissue, reduce inflammation, and improve circulation. You actually feel the calm and rejuvenation after a session. I've tested a few of these. This one really stands out for the build quality. It feels like it was built in a high-precision lab, and it's not just a cheap beauty gadget. So if you're into real evidence-based recovery tech, this belongs in your setup. Head to iRestore.com and use code Jesse25 for an exclusive discount. Again, iRestore.com, code Jesse25. Red light therapy has really been a game changer for me, so I hope you love it.
So it's almost like you were part of like a secret science program where you were given material to look at. You didn't even have context on the material, but you were getting downloads about it.
Yeah.
And do you think any of that made it into his, he had a lot of biomedical patents. He had a company called Vivex Biotechnologies, which he sold for $88 million.
That's who I was working with.
That's who you were working with?
That company.
Wow.
Yeah. They were creating what's called a biograph, which was, it was based on the metal that they've recovered, and infusing it into this, the particular, and I have video of the operation of a young lady, the first operation in the United States, was a Spanish lady that had bone cancer in her thigh, and they removed like 2 inches of the bone, and they wrapped it with this biograph, injected stem cells into it, and in like 60 days, her bone had regrown, the pain was gone, she could walk again.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is a operational, functional, company that does real things in the biomedical world. And what makes it fascinating is that maybe the backdrop of that company is recovered UFO material.
Exactly.
And somebody like you intuitively downloading the functionality.
I don't know how much good I did, right? But it was to come from a carpenter being ridiculed by the whole community to secretly drawing diagrams for NASA was, it was a pretty cool thing.
Well, you have all these rumors of like Philip J. Corso and, him being involved in, I think Army's, foreign technology desk and transferring, crash materials from Roswell, for example, to Bell Labs so they could, help build, semiconductors, things like that.
Right.
But what you don't hear of is people like yourself who are intuitively kind of tapped in, downloading aspects of the functionality of some of these technologies. That's really interesting.
Well, that I'm learning over the last night. It's been 19 years I've been doing this, right? A long time. And in that time, I've learned a lot, and I keep learning every day. But there is a great correlation with the phenomenon guiding us and creating things in our path. And if you're smart enough, then you pay attention to that, all kinds of things come. It's like being Sherlock Holmes. I'm like, oh boy, what's next? So that's kind of the way I've modeled my life is letting it guide my path rather than me try to drive the bus. I call it the lady, right? Or the phenomenon.
Yeah. It's like the way is not the way. Like you have to, or I think there's a concept called wu wei, which is effortless effort. And there's sort of sitting back, being receptive, listening to the signs, and then just kind of, following the path. And that's an art. It's easy to get into this mode of being attached and trying to over-engineer outcomes.
Exactly. For example, in the music world, I wrote about something that happened. I was given a message that the divine world encodes messages within the music that we listen to, and we just don't know it, right? So it's being channeled by these musicians. And that led me on, I'll tell you how manifestation works, is because when I was given that information, I was given 5 or 6 songs, 5 right away and 1 at another point. And when I read the lyrics on it, it was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy. I couldn't believe it. You hear these songs, but you never read the words. Well, that day in 2012, I said, Lord, I wish I could tell Sammy Hagar from Van Halen or Robert Plant or Jimmy Page or Neil Young. These are the guys, or Metallica, right? These are the guys that I just said the simple little prayer, right off the top of my head. Lord, I wish I could tell them. Wow, this is what I was thinking. Last year, on my birthday, I get a phone call, and it's Sammy's wife, Kari. And we become friends, and then it turned into Kirk Hammett with Metallica, and then I get a text from my friend. He said, hey, Chris, I'm in the pub in England, and sitting beside me is Robert Plant, and he's reading your book.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He sent you a happy birthday. And the same 2 days later, I get a call from Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's super into UFOs.
I love
I think
Fred,
he has a UFO podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on his podcast.
Cool.
So anyhow, it just all poured out, and it manifested. I didn't do it. I didn't seek these people out. They called me. And now that's... Sammy told me that the song Love Walks In, he don't even know where the words came from. It just came out of him. And this song is like, you have to read the lyrics on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy how much music is influenced by this stuff. Like, I think Paul McCartney, one of the Beatles had a dream about a flaming pie.
Right.
And that was how the Beatles name came about somehow.
I didn't know that.
It was going to be spelled differently, Beatles, and then it moved into BATLES after this flaming pie came down in this dream or something. And so, yeah, you have a lot of these sort of stories. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because we often think of like, the aerospace world that's interested in a lot of what you're doing is very kind of nuts and bolts focused, not,
right.
They don't care about, downloads or experiences or whatever. Do you feel like they really do? They are really interested in the phenomena, and they are learning from it as much as they are just, writing equations on chalkboards?
1,000,000%. In fact, in the last year, I've seen, or 2 years, I've seen a huge increase in the scientists, mainstream scientists that, forever, like Diana, she was the first PhD that would even talk about this, right? And back then, if you even said this out loud, people would laugh and walk away. Nobody would talk. But now, there's over 200 mainstream scientists right now. That was the word I was told by Dr. Estevez, Anna Brady Estevez.
Oh, yeah. She's been on the podcast. We're still coming out with something cool. Yeah.
But she...
American Deep Tech.
She's told me that there's at least 200 scientists that want to start working on this thing.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
And it almost feels like at times the scientists are being coordinated on a higher level.
Yeah.
And this gets into like the 3-body problem, or, science fiction novels like that, where, the way that the phenomena speaks to us is through scientific discoveries, innovation, through serendipitous meetings between scientists.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same thing with art and other creation.
Big time. And to the creativity world, artists of all kinds. In other words, I don't mean to interrupt, but if I had to say, of all the people that call me, that the majority of these experiencers, a good majority of them, will be artists that paint, that make music, that act. They're different type of people
Mm.
and created people. And for some reason, they're the ones that have a lot of this experience and have been for years.
Makes sense that they'd be tapped in. I think it's more interesting in a sense that somebody like, I've spoken to Hal Puthoff about this, and he goes, I always follow the synchronicities, and when they stop, I know I'm on the wrong path, whatever. And it's like, this guy is a very serious scientist who's popping up not only in areas of quote unquote UFO science, but in, prosaically very interesting science.
Right.
So
pretty serious guy. Always.
Yeah. And we were talking outside. It sounds like you're in touch with some Lockheed guys too.
Yeah.
What's the deal there?
Well, I have friends everywhere. There's no shortage of people from NASA, from Lockheed, from 3M, from all over, these scientists. But I happen to have a friend that is a material scientist that works with this material, and he kind of stays pretty close to me, following me about, and we travel together and we study together and doing a lot of things right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I can't tell you.
Does he work at a big aerospace corporation or?
You'll see him one day at, he lives in Silicon Valley, but you'll see him one day. He'll be in a skiff somewhere under an airport, or he'll be in, at NASA, or he'll be somewhere in amongst all that. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
He's educated me a lot on this metal and how it acts and how it acts differently in zero gravity than it does on ground level.
How does the metal act differently in zero gravity?
It's it has a way of let's just say the words I heard. This metal acts much like an animal, in that it is always seeking for energy and seeking to connect. And how I got this pen was being off planet and being tested by that metal, knowing that it bonded to me. So that's why this phenomenon is always around. It's trying to reconnect all the time.
And because you went up on a craft,
yeah,
you're somehow connected with the metal.
Yeah.
How do you think you're connected with it?
Into the DNA is all I know. It's a frequency. I think our DNA is transmitting a frequency, which is, I've seen the papers on it, and in a radar type frequency. So it's pinging and it's receiving, sending and receiving. And so it's always once it connects with you on that level, and I'm being very careful not to say a whole lot here, but I get a phone call if I say too much, right? But so yeah.
But they're clearly trying to, because they know you have a public presence. They know you're going to get asked about this stuff.
Yeah.
So they want to get it out somewhat.
Right.
Would be my guess.
Right.
There's a scientist named Konstantin Michels. He's in the Black Forest in Germany. And he talks about scalar physics and its relationship with DNA, specifically like DNA resonance with these exotic electromagnetic waves that exist in the scalar field, which, if you think about it, if we are getting any sort of messages via our DNA, a transverse Hertzian, a classic electromagnetic wave, doesn't really make sense because it decays at 1 over r squared. So if you're in a Faraday chamber, or you're, kind of in some remote place or whatever, the decay function on a normal electromagnetic wave would be too stark for you to really receive a lot of information ongoing.
Right.
But if you have some of these more exotic waves that travel at 1 over r, which a lot of these kind of deeper aerospace scientists believe possibly exist,
right.
Maybe your body would be able to download and encode a lot more information. And they say they think that the sun is a scalar wave generator. So maybe the sun is, constantly spurring evolution. And Tim Taylor talks about in Diana's book, American Cosmic, that his his protocols are around, being in the sunlight, and looking at the sun.
Well, that's it. And in fact, I read the paper on it 13 years ago. And the thought is that the sun, the way it shines at an angle on the earth, it creates the green color spectrum, which is the center of the color spectrum, right? And in that, the sun is affecting what's called ADT, which is the hemoglobin in your blood and the chlorophyll in plants. So when it hits that, it starts this energy and it starts creating life. And so the sun is telling everything how to be a pear, how to be a grass, how to be a tree, how to be me or you. So all the information of life is coming from that green light, from what they're saying. It's just constantly sending all information, all encoding to every living thing, birds. That's where it comes from.
Yeah. It's really amazing. I mean, there's this idea of the anthropic principle, which is, why is Earth, this perfect kind of homeostatic, like just place that fosters life? And there are, a couple of different explanations for it. One is like, we've tried a million different iterations. This is the Goldilocks zone. We just got really lucky or whatever to live in the one where it's perfect. And then there's another one, which is this has been sort of created or simulated, for life. And if you think about the Earth's magnetosphere, the way it blocks cosmic radiation, but allows just enough cosmic radiation to allow for the perfect amount of natural selection, to allow for, real evolution. But then the magnetosphere of the Earth itself, like literally the Schumann resonance, fosters human and animal morphology in this sort of perfect way. If you put a frog embryo in a Faraday chamber where that's blocked, it doesn't grow normally. So it's this like these perfect sort of circumstances.
So one thing we figured out this past year, I was on, John Alexander called me 2 or 3 times, Chris, nobody got it.
Yeah.
I was on this Beyond Skinwalker show with Brandon Fugel, right? So we were at the Monroe Institute. And they took me in the basement of the lab and put me in a Faraday cage. And it's silent. It's walls like this thick with, I'm in the basement of the lab in basically a coffin is what it looked like, with ceilings are copper and the walls are copper. So no electromagnetism can get in there. And so they had all these cameras outside pointing up at the sky. And I'm in this thing, and they have Dr. Thompson from New York, neuro PhD in neuroscience, was monitoring me, and he said if you sense a UFO over the complex, just point to the ceiling. Every time I pointed, they were filming something above the building, and that from that point on, John and a whole lot of other scientists says this proves this consciousness. It's not electromagnetic, it's consciousness. So it's instantaneous. It's our thoughts, which is what's creating everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you think of, we have phonons, which are sort of, quantum vibration packets, and then you have photons, which are quantum light packets.
Right.
Maybe at some point we'll figure out quantum thought packets or something.
Right. Well, that's it. It's all thought.
Mm.
It's just how it works with me.
Mm.
I don't have to go out and speak to get this thing to come. I just think about it.
Mm.
So it knows our thoughts completely. And in advance of what you're going to think. You can't fool it.
Wow.
At all. There's no way.
Wow.
This episode is sponsored by True Classic. This is one of my favorite shirts. It kind of works for every occasion. I honestly didn't think I cared about t-shirts until I realized how many of them I don't wear. They end up just accumulating in your closet. Most of them look fine on a hanger, then you put them on and something's off. They're too boxy, they're too stiff, they're too long, or they just kind of hang weird. That's the problem True Classic set out to fix. They focus on the fit first, which in my opinion is the most important thing when it comes to a shirt. Shirts that sit right on your shoulders and chest, relax where they should, and don't feel like you're wearing cardboard. The material is also extremely soft, breathable, and flexible. You put one on and you don't think about it again, which is kind of the goal. I've been wearing their shirts for a while now, and I always reach for them when I know I just want a standard quality shirt. When I don't want to think about what I'm wearing, but I know I'll be dressed appropriately for any occasion. You don't look overly formal, you don't look disheveled, you look just right. They started with men's basics, but now they make clothes for women and kids too. Same focus on comfort and fit. And they keep the prices extremely reasonable instead of charging you for a logo and a story. This company isn't about trends or fashion cycles. It's about having a consistent standard of quality and a few pieces you can always go to that won't let you down. So if you want to get some super high quality shirts, go to trueclassic.com/Jesse to refresh your wardrobe for 2026. You can also find them at Amazon, Target, Costco, and Sam's Club. Thank you to True Classic for sponsoring today's episode.
I want to go where other people haven't gone in interviews with you.
Right.
Do you feel like, when you read and this is going to sound like a crazy question, but like when you read the book of Acts and, learn about Jesus, do you feel like he is a state of being that others can get to through kind of, really spiritual, profound kind of experiences, what Diana Pasulka calls in her book hierophanies, right, revelations. And again, this is not to make him out to be this exclusive, untouchable, being or state, but like maybe some people can reach this state. And do you feel like maybe you're in that sort of Christ consciousness and that allows you to have
100%.
this healing effect on people?
Yeah, 100%. And the way I was born and raised a Baptist and married a Pentecostal holiness girl and was very deep into the church and loved it. And my wife still goes. She was at church yesterday and for the day before Sunday. But the way, when Jesus came, he wasn't a Christian. He was just saying the kingdom of heaven is within you. You can talk to God yourself. And you don't need to pay anybody to have that. And I don't think they liked him saying that a whole lot, and his life was cut short because of that.
Well, that's one of my favorite lines. It's in an apocryphal, the Gospel of Thomas, but it's, if you look to the sea, the fish will precede you. If you look to the sky, the birds will precede you. The kingdom of heaven is inside of you,
exactly,
and all around you.
Yep.
And, and then you'll have hardcore biblical scholars say, that was written 150 years later. And,
doesn't matter. That's the words Jesus used. The kingdom of heaven is within you. That spark, that divine spark. And you can,
how do you, cause like, I feel like my worldview and ontology in some ways matches a lot of yours and what you say. And then I think there are a lot of people out there who are like, who is this guy saying that he sees orbs and, that's a 747 or a satellite or whatever. Right. What do you say to those people?
I expect that. I've learned until you see it and experience it, you're just uninformed. It's real. It's 100% real. And I have shared it with groups as large as 1,000 at one time with a PA, and the most liberal UFO group, I've ever been to was Contact in the Desert this past summer, right? And here I am being drugged by the hand all day. You need to be in this room at this time, this room at that time. Hadn't eaten all day, hadn't been to the bathroom, and it's like 7:00 at night, and I'm finally, and I deal with rheumatoid, so my energy levels in the evening are low. My wife comes in, or my assistant comes in, he says, "Oh, you got a skywatch at 9:00. It was 8 then." I'm like, oh my God, I forgot all about that. Huge pressure. It's cloudy. It's raining in Palm Springs. It never rains in Palm Springs, right? It's sprinkling. And they said, there's a big group sitting outside waiting on you. So I told my wife, I said, take me somewhere to where nobody can see me, because if they see me, there was always 50 people in line, right? So she took me over to a little seating area where it was dark, and I lay back. I looked up at the sky and I said, Lord, I need help. I'm stressed. Tonight it's raining. There's 1,000 people out there wanting to see something. And suddenly, when I said that, my wife sat beside me. I heard this telepathic voice say, don't worry about the rain. It'll just get more interesting. And then I saw these 3 orange orbs come down under the clouds, and this digit that said 9:45 just flashed right up. I said, okay, there'll be 3 orange orbs at 9:45. So I got up, I walked over to the center of 1,000 people. They were in a big circle, and I'm in a 20-foot circle that they kept that where I could walk around in it with a microphone. And so I told the whole group an hour in advance. I said at 9:45, there'll be 3 orange orbs that appear underneath the clouds. And exactly at 9:45 it happened.
Whoa. Do you have video of that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can hear me on the microphone. It's all recorded, predicting it an hour in advance. But I didn't predict it. I saw it. It shared it with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. It's like the Fatima prophecy, but compressed and at a UFO conference.
But you know what I did? I'm at a UFO conference, and they're, some of them's got tinfoil hats on, and they have all these Galactic Federation. Well, it doesn't compute with me, right? So I basically held a little church at the most liberal thing. I didn't, not church, but I said, look, we're just going to say a little prayer here. This is how it works for me. There is no summoning. All this thing you hear about summoning these things, that's, if they're having negative experiences, whoever's doing this, well, that's why. Because you're open to anything coming. But I always use a little prayer. And so I just told him, I said, I believe that the Holy Spirit is this beautiful lady that gave me this information, and I'm just going to ask her right now to share her presence with us. And that's the only thing I said.
What do you think of, because it seems like you're coming at this from a very spiritual perspective. There are rumors that the legacy UFO program itself uses protocols to attract UFOs to come in, sometimes use directed energy weapons against them, get them to land psionically through what they call psionic assets. So that would be finding somebody maybe similarly tapped in as you are, but who's sort of not maybe come about it in the more kind of earnest spiritual way through life experience that you did.
Right.
Maybe they just have some ability, or maybe they've been given a protocol or something.
What are psionic assets?
When we look at collecting data, one of the areas that we look to collect data is through a psionic asset, which is an individual who's trained in remote viewing, psychic abilities, telekinesis, that type of thing, which is basically through a number of different protocols can transition into a place where they are highly sensitive to their environment from the point of view of consciousness, through a consciousness field.
How do you feel about that? Attracting crafts to come down, trying to derive material from these crafts or get downloads from them, but for like defense, kind of military industrial complex purposes.
Well, I've been, I work in and around a lot of those people, and I've had a lot of proposals that, and you wouldn't believe, even proposals, if I could get it to come down, could they shoot at it? I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen with me.
Yeah.
You want to study it? What I see is wanting to communicate with us. You hear about all that, but I've not seen any of it. I haven't seen the results. So there's a lot of talk out there, but not a lot of data to show, right? Where I show the data. I take 1,000 people out or 500 out, and we get things that appear to have wings, orange glowing beings, as many as 20 at the time, fly 25 feet over our head and appear out of thin air, poof, come right over us, glowing. And so it's very spiritual and sacred to me, and I would never, but as far as, I heard some of the things on Age of Disclosure, and they were talking about negative parts of it, orbs being negative. I've never experienced that ever in my whole 19 years of doing it. In fact, you talked about the book of Acts when Saul was on the road to Damascus. What was it that appeared and blinded him?
What was it?
It was an orb.
Whoa.
Flashed him. Said it flashed around him. Blinded him. It was a ball of light. Same thing. And so, it's all in your thought process. If you're grounded with that humbleness and earnesty and you love, then you're going to get that. But if you put something out, if we want aliens, right? We create this in our brain. If we want aliens with ray guns, if you get enough of the population to think on that, that's probably what will manifest.
What do you think the orbs are? It's this sort of perennial question, because I think a lot of people have these experiences. I think a lot, they'll meditate, they'll be deep in prayer, and they'll see something come up. I have an experience like that where I was doing holotropic breath work with a friend in Silver Lake, California, of all places, like the last place you'd ever expect to see anything. And we saw 2 metallic orbs show up, and it doesn't feel coincidental that, for him, I think it was his first time doing holotropic breath work, and
right.
That's supposed to get you into a state where your brain, I think, endogenously releases DMT, and you're in this kind of heightened spiritual state.
What do I think it is?
What do you think they are?
Well, I'm very careful to try not to label, because it's all speculation. You ask the question, what do you think? Well, I'm guessing, right? All of us are.
Sure.
And nobody's experienced it, I don't think, any more than I have. I see it just about every day of my life, and it comes in my house, orbs appearing in my room, over my chairs, and flying through the house and stuff.
So you think you experience it more than anybody in the world?
I haven't seen anybody with the data I have. Show me the data, and then you know what I'm saying? But people are seeing it now, and I predicted that. In my book, you'll read where I wrote about a certain incident that was going to happen in the future, which was when Iran and Israel began to exchange missiles at one another. At that point is when these balls of light, these orbs, were going to start appearing and revealing themselves to the world. I wrote about that, and that was something I've talked about for 10, 12 years. And then look, last November, these drones, supposedly drones that show up, those aren't drones. They're orbs coming out of the sea, appearing, and they're saying, stop. They de-escalated, and they kind of settled. They started putting F-35s in Poland. All of a sudden, now there's orbs all over Europe.
So what do you think the orbs are?
Based on the patterns that I've seen. I'm saying I'm guessing, right? But 19 years of research and prayer, simple prayer, that mindset. Don't have to say it verbally, just think it. Lends me to believe it's something connected to our thoughts, very caring, loving, and our beings. I can share a video with you of an orb with a lady standing beside me and another lady. I got one on each side. This one has cancer, stage 4 kidney cancer.
Jesus.
And she's missing one kidney already. Year and a half later, it metastasizes in her other kidney. She calls me. So she's worried about the chemo's not working. So she had a very poor chance of survival. So she calls me and comes to my house. This was in 2015, I guess, and 2013 maybe. And she brings her girlfriends, like 5 of them. So it's all of those, myself, my wife, and some of my children, and 3 Native Americans. They're outside. They just happen to show up at the same time, friends of mine. And so I got them to kind of do a spiritual song that they do for healing for her. And all of a sudden in the video, you'll see an orb appear. It comes zooming right up to me. And all of a sudden it flashes. And out of that comes a tall, glowing figure about 6 to 7 feet tall. And then it just kind of moves over out of the camera right in front of this lady. And then she goes to get her scan on Monday and has no more cancer.
What?
Yeah. And I have it on video. So
I would love to see that video.
I'll share it in a little bit with you.
That would be amazing. That's amazing.
So 19 years, I have more data about this and more than most people can imagine.
Would she ever go on record and talk about this?
Yeah, probably.
Wow. I'd love to speak with her.
Yeah.
This is it's so amazing.
So this is why I always lend to the spiritual side. You know, I believe if there's what is an angel, it's a messenger. I don't know what it is. I know that it is, to me, it's and it could be just a fractal of consciousness itself, which that word means God. In the end, it comes back to the creation or the creator, that mind. So maybe these lights are just fractals of that, but I don't know.
Do you believe Tim Taylor is a time traveler?
Well, I'm guessing, you know, people say that, but it's possible. It's very possible.
We were talking right before we were rolling about intersection points.
Right.
Points where maybe you can hop between timelines or something.
Exactly.
What does that mean to you?
Well, you know, it's just hard to wrap your head around. There's no words for that. The vocabulary for all this is just like very small. But yeah, I'll have to think on that one, what it means.
I was having a dream the other night about that, about timelines changing, shifting, and it was such a weird dream, but it was like, you know, it's like there's stories of, this is really random, but like Bill Murray, the actor, he'll walk around New York City and he'll like take a French fry from somebody, eat it, you know, in their restaurant or whatever. And, you know, he'll just like literally like off the street, and then they'll look at him, they'll be like, that's Bill Murray, like taking my fry or whatever. And then he'll look at them and he'll go, no one will ever believe you. And that's what a lot of the phenomenon feels like. It feels like self-concealing. You know, it's like I'm sure the perfect amount of the video that you described was cut off where open-minded people will believe it and then some hyper-skeptic will not.
Right.
Then it's like there is always some little stigma left on the evidence that you do have that is fully debunkable. But it's always like this, like
that's the
A
phenomenon.
and not A.
That's the phenomenon.
It is. It's messing with you.
And it's designed, it's doing that because there are 3 kinds of people. Now, I've talked about this many times. There are 3 types.
Yes.
Probably more.
Okay.
But there are people that can see, right? That can see this. There are people that I can teach to see. And there are people that can never see.
Oh, damn.
They'll never see it because they're skeptical. And when you're skeptical about this, you will never be in the club, ever. It will not let you in because it doesn't want to mess with your free will.
But skepticism is also good. You know,
yeah,
I think,
but some skeptics can come seers, right?
Sure.
But there are some that can never. Their brains are wired, you know, to where it's a block.
You do need some filtering mechanism. You need something in your brain being like, that feels wrong or false.
Right.
You know, what's the phrase? You know, your mind can be so open, your brain can fall out. Or,
yeah, right.
You know? So how do you view that? Because discernment seems like an important, you know, part of wading your way through this topic.
20 years of it, 19 years of me when it first happened. All I know is that I was afraid when I was looking at it in the broad daylight. It came out of the sky in daytime. It wasn't a dream, and it wasn't at night. It was in the broad daylight. And they came and they took me. So that programmed me in a way there was never doubting, ever doubting.
Describe this whole experience. So it was just broad daylight, and they came and took you. Who's they? And
well, they, whoever they are.
Yeah.
And this is in my book, UFO of God, by the way.
Check it out.
I haven't plugged it yet, but it was 19 years ago on January the 8th of 2007, will be 19 years. I was down and out and lost everything. Lost my home, my income. I had too many houses on the market. I was building 100 homes a year and had been for 19, 20 years. And the World Trade Center thing happened, and then the housing bubble bust. And so I found myself in a place where I was living in a $1 million home on the golf course, and now I'm in a mobile home with no income, and I'm having to apply for free lunch for my kids. That's how bad it got. And so I'm crying out to God, walking along. I had gone fishing at the river with my son and 3 other guys, and they wanted to fish. And so I walked away. They were sitting on the bank of the Cape River River, and I walked up the way we came in. We were down in the bottom. You cross a big cornfield, and then you go down in the river bottom. So about a quarter mile down in the bottom is where they were sitting on the bank. And I told them I'm going to walk up to the field and look for deer or whatever, just wildlife, not telling them how depressed I was and where I was. I mean, I was struggling bad, sick with Crohn's disease, had it 18 years, suffering with it. And anyhow, I walk up to that field, and it was just about 10 after 5 when I started up that way. Took about 5 minutes to walk, maybe 8. And when I got to the top of that hill, there they were, 2 of these big balls of fire, like flaming 40-foot round, red, orange, glowing balls of fire. And the fire is going around it, and these little tips were shooting off of it, flames. And there were 2 of them, side by side, very low down, probably a couple 100 feet above the trees and about 300 yards away. And I'm at the back of the field, and they're up at the road, the highway. That's where they were. And I'm sitting there looking at them, scared to death. First, I was mesmerized, like, what in the world? I'm a commercial pilot, still have my tickets, and so I knew right away what we were looking at wasn't anything Fort Bragg or any military anybody had. And so the chill came over me. It's like, oh my God, what am I looking at? So my mind went from amazement to fear suddenly. And then, I guess 5-10 minutes sitting there watching it, I got so afraid I wanted to run. So I turned my body and pointed down the hill to go run down to where my son was on the bank of the river. And I had to look back one more time. So I turned to look back before I went to run. And when I did, a third one above me was invisible. It was not visible. It just appeared and shot right straight down in front of me. 5:15, 5:30 in the evening in January. It's not dark. 4 hours later, I come walking back to the river where they were, and my son was missing. He wasn't there. He had gotten lost looking for me on foot. I couldn't compute any of that. How I had been gone for 20 minutes is all I could think. And they were fussing at me. Where have you been? We've been looking you all night. And it took me a long time to reconcile that. And then my Crohn's was gone. I had no more sickness. And if anybody has Crohn's knows how bad that is. It's the worst thing. You're in the restroom 10 times a day. I was at 20 times a day at that point in my life. So I'm suffering with sickness and suffering mentally and depressed and finding all of it. I'm at the very bottom crying out, Lord, help me. What do I do?
And you're living in a relatively small town in North Carolina where you were, very successful and known by all your community members, and you were at the depths of kind of despair, and I'm sure feeling like a pariah or something among your community.
Oh, yeah. Well, I came back excited to tell it. And that's when basically the next 5 years of darkness I talk about in my book started. And it was the pitchforks came out, the holy water came out.
Yeah.
And the social services came to my house trying to remove me from the house.
But real quick,
Yeah.
So you said that you thought it was 20 minutes had gone by.
It was 4 hours.
It was 4 hours. And do you remember what you had experienced? Did you recover the memories?
I recovered quite a bit of them.
How'd you recover them?
Time and through hypnosis and a doctor from Harvard helping me. And then you got to wonder, is it all real? But I can tell you, they talk telepathically.
Who's the doctor from Harvard?
Dr. Michael O'Connell was his name.
And is he
He's
done
dead.
this with other experiencers?
Yeah, he was trained by John Mack.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a doctor at Harvard currently who was trained by, so John Mack was the head of the Harvard psychiatry department who saw a lot of experiencers. And originally he got into it because he was interested in missing time.
Right.
It's like all these people are coming with missing time. And then he had been childhood friends synchronistically with Bud Hopkins, who was very interested in experiencers, abductees. So he has an heir at Harvard, John Mack does, Michael O'Connell.
Well, he's dead now. He died.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I was literally going to be like, I want to interview him.
Yeah, he was I love the guy. I mean, we bonded really close until he died. He lived in South Carolina, so I lived, an hour and a half from him, so we visited a lot.
Wow. I think another thing for people to understand, if they are skeptical of something coming out in a hypnotic regression, these experiences are so traumatic. They're so foreign to you when they happen.
Right.
If you look at any other extremely traumatizing experience just in the world,
right?
A woman who's, or, somebody experiences child abuse or like something extremely, serious, that just shatters your whole being, you will repress that memory.
Yeah.
And it will often have, you'll have fragments of it, you'll have shards of it, but it'll be like broken glass, and you'll need techniques like this at times to recover those memories. So this guy, Michael O'Connell, works with you.
Right.
And what do you end up recovering?
Well, what he did, I'll give you a short on what he did. He came and he started just dialogue, talking, and told me that he knew from his studies that they can tend to pack a lot of information in your mind, and it's locked away in there, and that if you were to remember it all at one time, it'd probably drive you crazy. So he, I can tell you, I had severe headaches. If I tried to think past that missing time, I would pass out. I did it over and over. When they would question me, I'd get to a point and I couldn't think anymore, and the headaches would come so bad, I would pass out.
There's a really great book by, my mind's just going to all these crazy places, but there's a book called Healing Back Pain by Paul Sarno. It's this amazing book that healed a lot of people's backs psychosomatically, because it talks about chronic pain as being adaptive from a psychosomatic perspective. And so maybe even this was the case with your Crohn's disease that you were facing, where it is more adaptive to feel physical pain at times than to process emotional pain.
Right.
And so it would make sense that actually physical pain would be the blocker for something that was maybe more emotionally painful or transformative or something.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, so we started working together, and he would tell me, we're going to program you to where that this information comes out little at a time, not too much, but you'll remember it all. That's what he said. immediately when he did the work with me, within days, I started having these nightmares and dreaming and speaking in my sleep and talking, and my wife and kids were videoing me in the bed. They'd hear me, saying all kinds of crazy things about my experience. But what it was like, Jesse, was like a virtual tour. In other words, they took me. The first thing I remembered was seeing Egypt. Why? Over the pyramids, looking over the pyramids and seeing the Sphinx. That's all I remember. That and seeing this temple, Hathor's temple, and all the animals and the birds. It was just like this video that was playing in my brain about Egypt. And so I studied everything I could study about that. And I went to scholars like Dr. Gilbert and learned from Robert all kinds of sacred geometry. And
I didn't know you learned from Robert Gilbert.
Yeah, he lived in Asheville, right close to me. So
famous Rosicrucian scholar.
Yeah,
interesting.
Loved the guy.
Wow. Yeah, he very sad. He
passed
was,
away.
I think, a nuclear chemist, and he just passed away from cancer very recently,
he did,
like this year, I believe.
Yeah, this year. But a world of knowledge, and he helped me a lot, understanding the symbols I saw about Egypt. And then, 2019 comes along. I write about this in my book. I'm sick with rheumatoid arthritis now, and I've been on chemotherapy for like 6-7 years. I'm down to 150 some pounds, walking on a cane, and now I'm migrating to a wheelchair. That's where I was in 2019. Diana and Tim were in the Vatican archives in 2017. And I was supposed to go with them, but I couldn't. I was sick, and they were...
Oh, you were supposed to go on that trip.
Well, that could have been arranged. Yeah, it was all about me, the whole thing. When they went there, they had a ceremony in the Vatican.
It was supposed to be a ceremony for you.
Yeah, they had a ceremony. They put my picture in the picture of the Pope on the outside of the archives, and then they placed my photo between the books of Galileo and Copernicus.
Really?
Yeah, to be there forever.
No way.
Yeah, sure did.
Do you have photos of this?
Yeah, I do.
Could you send that? Wow. This is amazing.
Yeah. So
and who was Tim Taylor prompting them to do this ceremony, or?
I think Diana's connection to the Vatican and the lady I speak about, here I come in 2012 having an experience with this lady, this beautiful glowing lady that, boy, that was something too, because that was at the end of 5 years, and I was fighting the government, the social services for my sanity.
Yeah. But real quick, so because you were describing your first experience that,
right,
O'Connell helped you get out, and so you're around the pyramids. You see the sacred geometry, which Dr. Robert Gilbert helps you kind of decode.
Right.
Did you decode anything? Did you notice any sort of messaging?
Yeah, I did. I started seeing likeness in the way they portray their deities is in the whole matrix of the thing. It's like when Jesus was born, it said an angel came and said, "Go to Egypt," right? Well, we don't realize that Egypt was controlled by Greece for 500 years before that, right? So perfect fit for him to go there and to grow up there. And when you start seeing the similarities between the two, there's pretty much the same thing. And
the stories between who and who? Between
the Trinity, Jesus and the Trinity, and then Ra and Horus and the whole thing. They have a triad there, right? But their deities are portrayed as animals and birds, forces of nature. This is what Dr. Gilbert spoke about. It's all about everything, nature and humanity. And so when then you read the story of Ezekiel and the wheel within the wheel, right? He walks between two of the cherubim, it says, and he walked between them. And there he met an angel, right? And what was it? It had faces of animals and only one part human. So it's not like grandma with wings and a beautiful robe, right? It's just these things are creatures, and it's always.
Did you see these creatures?
No, I've studied them.
Okay.
I saw the creatures. Yeah, I drew them.
Yeah.
When they were little glowing beings about this tall.
But those seem more of the variety of the extraterrestrials or aliens people kind of experience.
Well, they say that until you read Daniel chapter 10 when it talks about an angel that he saw. And when I described this little being, I said he looked like glass. He was so shiny, his whole body was glowing, like he had a suit on that was gleaming like glass.
Did you see this alien in the craft, or
I saw it standing from me to you from me?
And this was in like the woods,
yeah,
near your house.
Yeah, and I wrote about this, and
he had a little triangle
on his chest. Yeah, funny. There's a triangle right there, right?
Oh, there you go. I was thinking that when you were like, "Look at my little pendant," I was like, "Well, was that an homage to the triangle from the alien being?"
That was from NASA. Yeah. And two, I have multiple videos, and if we go sky watching at some point, you'll see the phenomena will always try to line up in a triangle or in threes.
Interesting. So it's like maybe the Trinity or something.
Yeah, it's telling us something, right? What is that? I don't know. It's all speculation. I'm learning.
What else did Robert Gilbert tell you? Because he did seem like a person who was very tapped into kind of deeper esoteric truths.
Yeah, a lot. I learned a lot from him that helped me understand that this world is so far more complex. For example, he described pendulums. If you go to Egypt and you dig in the soil there, the most artifacts that they find under the ground in Egypt are pendulums.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's the most frequent artifact?
That's the most frequent. They find millions of them. And so he explained to me what they knew and how the people that set Washington up, they did the same thing. Why they have an obelisk in Washington, why they have one in Central Park, why is there one in France and in England? And they went to Egypt and got those things and brought them back and stood those stones up.
Well, if you look at Charles L'Enfant, you have all this kind of Freemasonic symbolism around D.C., and that is definitely derived from ancient Egypt. In fact, I've been inside of this like Freemasonic temple in D.C., and by the way, I'm not a Freemason.
Right.
And I wouldn't be saying this if I was, obviously.
Right.
But like it's just you might as well be in like an Egyptian temple or something.
Right.
It's all Egyptian symbology.
Yeah.
And so you think there's like a link between?
I think it's a big mystery, but there's a link some way or another.
Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting. And then the other connection for you with ancient Egypt is, so you're around the pyramids and you see these symbols, and then you obviously encounter these beings, but later you encounter the lady.
Right. And
she describes herself as Hathor. Is that right?
Well, that was one name she used. She said she had many names. And she had been called many things throughout the world. In other words, Diana, Demeter, Isis, Hathor, Hera, the Virgin Mary, everything. She's had many names throughout history and by every culture. And the way she explained it to me helped me understand religion in a different way, how people conceive, like the Taoists or the Muslims or the Catholics or whoever only imagine God in their minds. We all do. We imagine that. And it turns into an ugly thing because religions tend to think they have the skivvy on God, and therefore we're going to go to war with you because you don't believe like us. That's the problem that has to stop. And this is the message she told me, that she had many names throughout history and that God is God. And we don't know what we think we know, and we need to sit back and reanalyze and be good children, or we're going off the cliff.
Mm.
That's kind of the thing she told me. And she told me about the missiles. That was in 2012.
Mm.
But there was so much there. I came out of in 2012 telling it like right away what that she explained to me.
And you received a prophecy about 2026 as well, right?
Yeah.
And what was that?
Well, she said, and I had no idea what it meant. Still don't. Other than she said that when the star of Regulus, which is a blue star, when it appears red on the horizon at the dawn before the sun comes up, in the gaze of the Sphinx, in other words, I saw it in a vision, the whole thing. You could see the Sphinx facing east, and this thing's just cresting the top. She said, when that happens, that will be a sign that ushers in a new knowledge for humanity. So does that mean the return of Jesus or the return of Christ consciousness? It could. And I think that's possible. But it marks a sign, she said, where the darkness would be exposed and the truth would be revealed. So I think we're going to learn something over the next couple of years that, and this was 12 years ago I said this, 13 years ago, 2012.
Yeah.
Right? And how when these missiles started flying and the orbs started appearing, that got a lot of attention on me real quick.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm caught between two minds. One is, I think even the book of Matthew, it's something like nobody knows
today
the apocalypse other than God.
Right.
Paraphrasing, but yeah, nobody knows the day. And then on the other hand, it does feel like just this gestalt sense of like things are getting weirder.
Yep.
Dark truths are being revealed ongoing.
Yep.
Feels like it's already started. And it feels like we're on the verge of some sort of paradigm shift.
Yeah, we are. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that 100. And I think everybody sees something coming and a new knowledge just coming and a new shift that things that I know that imagine a world without oil.
So you think we're going to have free energy at some point soon or something?
Imagine the world without rockets.
Right.
So that kind of knowledge alone would change everything.
Right.
All of humanity. And so that's in our future.
Well, that was Thomas Townsend Brown's vision, a world beyond rockets that, he had this model of electrogravitics, which connected electromagnetism and gravity, which, in kind of our standard physics is, we don't have a link between those two things.
Right.
And if you were to get a link, if the input was pure electromagnetism or, electrical, and the output was some sort of gravitational perturbation, that would be paradigm shifting.
Exactly.
I mean, you get well beyond what SpaceX is, which is extremely inefficient. Most of, I believe, the Starship, their latest rocket is, I think it's 5,000 metric tons, and an extremely high percentage of that. I mean, the payload capacity of it is like 150 tons. So that ratio alone, it's all fuel. The whole thing is fuel.
Right.
That's not efficient. That's not alien interstellar space travel. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I imagine a day that we won't need those things. In fact, they probably already have that.
Do you think they do?
I think so.
Really?
I think it's possible. Yep.
So why not? Why not let it out then?
Because it would change everything. It could create it's something that has to be given slowly.
It's too disruptive.
Yeah. Imagine.
It would definitely be destabilizing for institutions.
Exactly.
If you had, say right now we're paying, I'm just going to throw fake numbers out there, but $15, per kilowatt hour for electricity or whatever. If that reduced to 10 cents per kilowatt hour, a whole lot of institutions would kind of crumble. Corporations would experience a lot of, like, for the people who are like, there, it wouldn't, destabilize things. I think that's crazy. I think it would. I think it'd be very positive.
Well, it would be in the end, but imagine the oil tankers, the thousands of them, or refineries and all the jobs that's involved with it. So
sure. Yeah, but then imagine the abundance on the other side.
Yeah.
All of those people, their quality of life would be dramatically different, better. Yeah.
So is that the new knowledge? I don't know, but I think that there's a whole lot of things that are going to come forward that have been hidden from us, and the main thing is the truth that we're not alone.
Yeah, I mean that's clear to me. I think that's definitely a thing.
And so I believe next year we'll be closer to that than ever.
Yeah.
And the word apocalypse, by the way, you know what that means?
Unveiling.
Yeah, to reveal a secret.
To reveal the secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. And people think when you hear that, and if you look on Google, it says the ultimate destruction, the end. It's lying to us. That's not what the word means at all. It means to reveal that which has been hidden.
And it's the veil thinning. And I think for some people that will be very good, and for other people it will be very bad. It depends on your orientation to it.
Right.
And I think it does have this connotation of, Beelzebub coming down and breathing fire onto everybody, and sorting people and whatever. But like, I think if you were oriented in a good way spiritually, I don't think it'll necessarily be bad for you. I also don't even, we're talking about it like it's one, crazy event with these like divine beings. Maybe it's like a slow moving
That's
thing.
exactly the way I see it. It's not like snap your fingers and something. We're not going to wake up on Easter or whenever that time happens.
Yeah.
I'm torn, by the way, because for 8 years I wrote and talked about this alignment being in September or somewhere in the fall, because that was the date given to me by some people into astrology. And then they come back right when I go to write my book and say, oh, we made a mistake. It said Easter. And I thought, well, that sounds plausible because the lady's always coming around Easter. I have this insane experiences every year at Easter.
Are you still having them?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you still speak to
every
this
year.
And you think it's the same, the Virgin Mary, Hathor, Demeter, you think all of these?
I think it's the Sophia, the wisdom, the Holy Spirit.
So that would be kind of the Gnostic version or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who I think that this being is. It was a spirit, and it was definitely holy in her presence, right? And so, and when she physically impacted me, because the wind blew me backwards to the ground. It was such a blast of wind that blew me down, and I started researching that. And the word spirit is the wind, right? And the word Holy Spirit is the breath of God. But it was the wind that affected me, and the power from it. This cow came over me, but the wind pushed me back.
What does she look like?
Looked like the most beautiful 35, 40-year-old woman you've ever seen. Just glowing and typical Virgin Mary apparition type thing. And this thing, this spirit appears in every country. It appeared to the Native Americans in the Wild West back. They called her the White Buffalo Calf Lady. The Egyptians called her Hathor, and earlier before Met, and the Birth Mother, the Creator. In Proverbs in the Bible, chapter 8 and 9 talks about wisdom. It's the name of the chapters, and it talks about, and she was created before the earth was created, before the beginning of time.
Wow.
So who is she? I don't know. But that's my thought.
What was the feeling that came over you when you saw her, when you see her regularly?
It's when I first saw her, it was very impactful because the cow ran me over, and so I had this extreme fright to start with. And then I land on my back, and I roll over to get up and run, and there's this beautiful woman. So I went from extreme fear to, oh my God, what is this in front of me?
Is the cow running you over part of the whole thing? Is
That was part of her coming at me. She came at me at night out of the darkness as a wind. The wind hit me, and as I'm going backwards to the ground, I see a translucent cow run over top of me, and I
Whoa.
could see stars up through the thing. I'm like, oh my God. And I was frightened so bad, I landed on my back, and I turned to get up and run, and there's this woman about from here to that camera, 3 feet off the ground, hovering, and she looked at me and she said, you know why I'm here. And I'll tell you why she said that, because 5 years had gone by, 2007 to 2012, and I had been beaten down and broken by the community. My children were falling apart. The schools, the teachers were calling them to the side. Is your dad crazy? We hear about all this. Are you all right? Somebody from there called social services on me, and I had to fight to be at home with my children. It was that bad. So 5 years of that, I walked out on Easter, Saturday night, Easter of 2012. Sunday morning is Easter, right? And I shouted to the sky, thank you for saving me. Thank you for healing me. But you've ruined my life. Now my children are affected, and I have caused them great harm, and I'll never speak about this again. Even though I had the desire, they put this in me, like the famous movie Close Encounters, where you see he's making a mashed potato mountain in dirt, and he's throwing it in the window and bushes, and he's creating devil's tower, right? He didn't know what it was, but it was in his head. So I was that guy. I had to tell everybody. And the more I told it, the more trouble I got myself into.
And what you're referencing with your family is Junior, your son, who had gone looking for you, also saw beings, was really shocked at what he experienced.
It was the community that caused him to want to leave home.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. He was 17 years old, and my right hand, it was with me everywhere I went. And we come home telling the world about it, and now the whole community has come on us. And so 5 years into it, I'm out telling the heavens, I quit. I'll never talk about it again. And then she appears and says, you know why I'm here. This is your burden you must bear. You have to tell what you know, and if you do, I will allow you to video record and film my presence and share it with others.
The lady said
she told me that.
And are you going to?
Well, let me tell you, from 2007 to 2012, I had zero data. I was out every night with a camera trying to get pictures to save myself from the community, right? The more I tried, the less it would let me film it. It'd be hovering in the trees behind my house. I pull the camera out and it would vanish.
Yep.
Every time. So I was angry about that. I'm trying to prove myself sane, and my child is now left home because the community has just been tough. So she's like, you're not going to quit. I'm going to help you. So from that point forward, I started being able to film it and sharing it with anybody. And I've amassed terabytes and terabytes of data, video, photo, audio, and never a picture until 2012 when she came.
Why do you think these guys from NASA are showing up at your door? We mentioned Tim Taylor earlier. He's a NASA mission controller, but Hal Povenmire also showed up originally. And I think you, Ryan, your son, mentioned that kind of at the end of his life, you realized that he was both CIA and NASA.
Yeah.
And so what do you think their interest in all of this is?
And there are a lot more NASA guys. That was just two of them.
Really?
In fact, I had dinner with Hal's wife this weekend. She came from Florida to Chris Jr.'s wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we love them. And but there are a lot of other NASA guys that I'm currently talking with. Several. One tells me wherever I go, but they're all interested.
They tail you wherever you go.
They're there with me.
Really?
Yeah, usually traveling with me. Somebody associated with that, yeah.
What do you think they want?
They all want to study it. They want to know, and they observe it with me. I take them out, and we do a lot of work.
Are they with you in Austin, Texas?
No, but they wanted to be. I only had one night, and my wife's friend traveled with me because she was at our house, and her kids are right down the street. But usually I go nowhere without somebody with me for a reason.
Wow.
Yeah. I've had some things that caused me to want to have somebody with me all the time.
What happened that caused you to want to not leave, go anywhere unaccompanied?
Well, I've been threatened a few times by different ones, and I was at the PSI games this year. Psi games, I call it PSI, Psi games, and came out of a conference speaking, and when I walked out the door, this mad lady comes running up to me and tries to kidnap me.
What?
Yeah. Has something with drugs on it, tried to get me in a van with no driver, with no tags on it. Security had to come. They had to call the law on her. Yeah, so.
Crazy
people.
Yeah, I imagine you attract a lot of nutty people.
Big time.
What do you think the Vatican knows about all of this? If they had a picture of you and they were doing some ceremony about you and you were supposed to come, what do you think they think of you?
Well, I can share a couple photos of you for that, but I got 3 pictures, several, quite a few paintings that they have in the Vatican that Diana sent me from there. And Pope Francis, she said to tell me that they know that they're angels, that they don't mean to harm us, but their energy, if they get excited, can cause harm to a human. So just be careful and try to ask it not to get too close to you. And these 3 photos or paintings show orbs with angels in them. That's what they told me.
Yeah, because, you have St. Francis of Assisi,
Yep.
who she writes about in 13th century Mount Laverne in Italy.
Right.
Brother Leo is right next to him, and he sees this angel. But if you look at the original Greek translation, it's a flaming torch.
Yep.
She thinks it's this UFO experience, and that the stigmata he receives, these wounds on his hands, are actually electromagnetic damage. That Gary Nolan or somebody studying kind of modern experiencers interacting with UFOs might just say, oh, that's like an electromagnetic burn. Or you see it in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You see the burn on his face.
I got radiation burns, plasma radiation. That's what NASA told me it was.
So you also got plasma radiation burns.
No, I didn't, but I was warned a million times by Hal Povenmire and different ones at NASA kept calling me honestly over and over. Don't let him get too close. Don't get too close to him. Hal was telling me that they knew the voltage was like 33 million volts in one of these things. And if it got near me, it would kill me dead.
So they have like a scientific model of how these angels work at NASA.
They know a lot more than we think they do. They just don't share it, right?
So who is this team between CIA and NASA that knows a lot about angels?
Well, I don't know that, but I know the NRO is the ones that have the keys to this thing.
Really? And why do you think that?
Because they have the keys to all the satellites and all the eyes on the sky, and they're the ones that every rocket, when it goes up, right? They observe every aspect of that rocket for reasons, for mechanical reasons, and for a surprise visit that happens pretty much every time they launch one.
Do you think that rockets attract UFOs?
That's what I'm saying. Every time they send one up, it attracts them, and they'll come up and look at it if it has weapons on board.
Does Tim Taylor know Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Do they work together?
For sure, yeah.
Did Tim ever tell you that?
Well, he mentioned his name, but he didn't say he worked for him. But he controls all the launches.
Controls all the launches?
Tim does. He's the launch guy. He's the dragon. His console is called Dragon Control.
And he controls all of the launches
He's
out
the
of
guy.
Cape Canaveral? Or?
He's the guy. He's the one. And I'll tell you what he does. When they fire a rocket up, right? they have these big ground-based cameras, like on a World War II battleship, where they sit on a gun and they could turn a handle and the gun would go around, and they could control this thing they're sitting on. Well, they have big binoculars on it like that, and they can get on this thing and follow this rocket up. And they got it to about 50,000 feet. Then it gets blurry. So at that point, it's intercepted by a WB-57 run out of Houston by a good friend of mine, which is National Reconnaissance Office, works with Taylor. So his crew's up there at 50,000 feet, and it intercepts the rocket. So they film it with 7 cameras on that thing where it goes right on up. When it gets up to 100,000 feet, then it's intercepted by F-104 Starfighter, equipped with another 7 or 8 cameras on that. And so it trails it right on up until it runs out of sight of it, and then the satellites take it over. And the only ones that can look at the satellites are these NRO guys.
Mm.
And Tim walks out of his control into a private room where all the screens are.
Mm.
So his eyes are on all that.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
How did he get into that line of work? Because if you read Launch Fever, I don't think he's traditionally credentialed or trained.
Well, my friend from Houston told me he helped him get that position.
And who's your friend from Houston?
Well, I can't say his name.
Okay.
He lives right down the road from here on a big ranch right out here. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
We can figure it out.
I'll show you a picture of him later.
Okay, cool. Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
And because Tim also works at Aerospace Corporation, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think the link is between NASA and Aerospace Corporation?
I know a lot of those guys are NRO.
Okay, interesting.
And they carry Blackberries everywhere they go.
Blackberries?
Yeah.
Not iPhones, Androids?
They have all that, but they have Blackberries. They do their business.
Do you think he's a time traveler?
I think it's entirely possible. Honestly, I can tell you a story about him.
Yeah.
It's in my book.
Yeah.
I think it made it in. I wrote 140,000 words, and we only published 85, and that was what they recommended for the right size of book, right? So, but in one of the stories, I talk about Tim. Right after we came back from Zanesville, Ohio, he came to my house, and we had this famous tree on my yard that caught fire. This is a video out on the internet. You can see Chris Bledsoe burning tree. Well, we had this tree that just spontaneously combusted in the backyard. It rained for 2 days, ground's wet, everything's wet. And my wife and I walk out the back door at 9 o'clock, and this poof, it erupted into flames and was shooting 15 feet up through the tree. And she put it out 3 times with a hose pipe. It kept reigniting itself. And so that got the attention of everybody. And Tim wanted to see this tree. So he's at my house. I picked him up at the airport. He goes to my daughter's homecoming game that night. She was a little homecoming princess in the 10th grade. Now she has a double master's from NYU. So that's been a long time ago, right? We walk up to this tree and having just a good, conversation. And all of a sudden, the one side of the tree is open where it burnt from the inside. The tree caught fire in the inside and burnt a hole through the side of the tree. And when we walked up to it, he walks up and puts his head right up to look up in the tree. And all of a sudden, this snake comes out of the tree, this silver snake. And it was I'd never seen anything like it ever. It was silver as a silver automobile. It was perfect color. He jumps back and he grasps for air. Oh my God, just like that. And he looks at me, and he was short with words. And he said, my grandmother is full-blooded Choctaw Indian, and I went to school on a minority grant. My grandma told me if I ever saw a silver snake, it was part of their history, right? She said it would be a message from God. And he saw that and told me all about it, but I watched his reaction, and it got the best of him when that snake come out of that tree.
And you saw the snake.
I was standing beside him. Yeah.
What do you think the message could have been from God?
It was a message from him for him to understand this whole thing was from God somehow or another.
And how does one of the most interesting things I wonder is if you read American Cosmic or talk to Diana Pasulka, it's almost like they visited the Vatican archives. He figured out a way in before she had gotten there, and then they were sort of celebrating him at the Vatican Observatory. Like, why would the Vatican Observatory know who a random NASA mission controller is? It makes me think he is not a random NASA mission
he's
controller.
not a random guy at all. He's, let's just say he runs with the biggest.
How so? Do you think he has a connection with the president?
Yeah, absolutely. He briefed Obama on me. That's where this come from.
He briefed Obama on you.
It came from him with a dinner napkin from Camp David, Maryland.
And you're sure of
Positive.
that? And did he tell you that he briefed Obama?
No, he didn't tell me that, but I know that's what it means.
Because of the letterhead.
Yeah. And where it came from.
Bob McGuire, who is, I think, former Intel and a friend of yours, came on the show, and he said, that cannot be faked.
Right.
That definitely came from Camp David.
Yeah.
It's a napkin and an envelope with the napkin partially obscuring the address that's on the envelope. I knew the address because it was the address of Chris Bledsoe. I knew the napkin because it was the presidential seal on a napkin from Camp David. There's only one way you can have that napkin, because it's a crime to copy the presidential seal. There's only one person that can get you to Camp David. And the picture was mailed to him by Tim Taylor.
By Tim Taylor.
And the only person that story can have been told to in that envelope was Barack Obama.
Oh my God.
The letter to me is ironclad proof that Chris's story was taken all the way to Barack Obama.
Via Tim Taylor.
Yes.
You might think he was trying to throw you off the trail if he said, I briefed the president and was bragging or whatever, but
he didn't
sort of
say
found
that.
it out independently.
Right, I found it out. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew that he told me he just returned from Camp David. And it was at Christmas when he gave
so
it to me.
he told you that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said I was at the dinner table with the president and handed me that napkin.
He said that?
Yeah.
Okay, so he did tell you that.
But he didn't tell me. He briefed him, but he did give me the napkin and the
Whoa.
and this. Yeah.
And you believe him?
Yeah. Had no reason not to. You know?
Have you ever caught him in a lie?
No.
Ever?
I wouldn't. Not that I can recall.
Everything he said has either come out to be true or you're waiting for confirmation.
Right.
Wow. Have you independently verified
some of what
the
he's
things
told
that
me?
he
Yeah,
said?
100%.
Is there an example of that?
No, but it's just, it'd be like, it's just so hard to pinpoint any one thing.
Sure. Or like, I don't know, some of the things about how the NRO or NASA work together. Have you been able to verify it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think that the Big Dipper or Ursa Major has anything to do with the UFO phenomena? You've said that you've seen UFOs come from that constellation specifically.
I have but I've learned since then that doesn't matter. It's wherever I look. I can take you out at night and face one certain direction and only have a hole to look through that direction, and it'll come from there. We can turn in any direction and focus there, and that's where it'll come from.
So do you think the Vatican and the president and whoever, Tim Taylor, the hammer, do you think they're all coordinating in some way? Like this archangel, the Vatican, and the president, or what do you think the connection is there?
I don't have a clue. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I was told, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've been told a lot of things, but he told me about the movie, The Adjustment Bureau, and the story about the hammer.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the Netflix show Dark by any chance? No?
I don't know.
Do you think that you mentioned Tim's grandmother being Native American?
So is he a time traveler? I know where he came from, right? As a young boy.
Which is?
Well, he told me the story about his upbringing, his Native American grandma. And so I'm just answering that question you asked earlier. Is he a time traveler? I don't know. I just know he told me and shared with me his childhood. So.
Did he say anything else about Thomas Townsend Brown?
Not a lot, other than we went there. We went to into conversation about his daughter, and that he was actively, and I actually have the manuscript saved on my phone. He shared with me that he was working with her on
this book.
On that book.
Whatever happened to the book?
I don't know, but I know I have the manuscript that they were writing.
I would love to read it.
Whether they were publishing it or ended up publishing it, I don't know if they did or not.
What was it going to be about?
About her father and his work and Tim's input, confirming it all.
And Tim definitely knew Townsend Brown.
Yeah, he knew his daughter. He caught her when I was there with him.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is so interesting.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with Tim?
I haven't spoke to him. He sent word to me a couple years ago.
I want to speak to him about Townsend Brown.
He's a ghost, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah. His whole life, I admire him because his real life is in medical, saving children. Cares more about the children and the struggles they have and diseases and cancers and finding cures for that.
I'm sort of like, a part of me is like hesitant to even ask questions about him because I don't like honing in on any specific individual.
Right.
But when there's a specific individual who seems like they're embedded at the deepest levels of power structures that go as high as he does, they're claiming things to you and Diana Pasulka that seem kind of otherworldly, you know. I just have to be fascinated. And both you and Diana have, public, followings.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, like you have to know, like some of this stuff's going to get out and you're going to instill curiosity.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this, but I met him once for like 20 minutes.
Oh, you did? Wow.
On like a FaceTime or whatever.
Tim, you did?
Yeah, I met him. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so stupid in retrospect because now I'd ask him so many other questions. But
you were tongue-tied at that moment. Huh?
Well, not only tongue-tied, because I was invested in this rocket company, and they were struggling to get off the launch pad. And normally I'd separate the woo-woo UFO stuff entirely from that world. I try not to mix them at all.
Right.
But I was kind of desperate, and I was like, okay. I did read this book, American Cosmic, and I know that there's this guy and he claims to use consciousness to get the, rockets off the pad. And so I'm like, if there's anything there, I know the guys I'm working with, invested in, they're not thinking about consciousness as any sort of factor or component. So that was the impetus for me to talk to him. And we talked about that for 20. The trippiest thing he said to me, and I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was clear this was the implication, is he said, for you to succeed in your rocket company, you have to know what they want,
Yeah.
And Diana said it, called it the sponsors, and it's, but it's the beings or whatever.
Now you know why he has a private office and the only one with eyes on whatever comes up to that rocket.
He's the only one with eyes on that.
He's the one he's at Cape Canaveral in that room.
Where does the nickname the Dragon come from?
I don't know, but he has a tattoo on his arm of the dragon. And when I was allowed to get on base, I had to get a tattoo right here. It was part of the mission.
Really? And it was of a dragon?
Yeah.
Whoa. And then you have the Dragon capsule, at SpaceX. And I don't know if do you think that's a coincidence or?
No, it's all a part of it.
You think so?
Yeah.
When you were at Cape Canaveral, he was showing you around. Did he show you anything interesting?
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Anything exciting or kind of beyond what you would expect just at a normal
I was like
facility?
a kid right here, the most secure place on the planet. Cape Canaveral, the mission control, he told me it was more secure than the White House. Nothing is just that secure. And last time I talked about this, I got in trouble, right?
Really?
Well, yeah. One particular thing I mentioned on Danny Jones' podcast.
Oh. What you got in trouble for saying something?
Well, yeah. Well, it got. I don't want to say it here because it got it got the algorithm killed on that.
You said that the views were like, it was like doing 50K a day.
Oh, yes.
And then it cuts off.
Yeah.
You speak to some rep at Google, and they're like, we don't know what the hell happened here. It doesn't make any sense given the click-through rate, average view duration, which should basically define the video's performance. He goes, the one other time I've seen this is with Jesse's David Grush video.
Exactly.
Performance fell off a cliff.
Yep.
So,
and he said that my video with Bledsoe and your video with Grush, neither of them broke any YouTube rules or had any internal red flags that he was able to see.
Yep.
And he goes, whenever this happens, which has happened one other time recently with David Grush,
yep,
it's basically the floor above me that I have no access to.
Yep.
Something above my head that I don't know what the hell's going on. So what the hell is going on?
Yeah, Danny Jones said that the video got totally like cut off, throttled.
Right.
And he was confused. And Danny, by the way, is not like a dogmatic UFO believer at all.
Right.
He goes back and forth on the whole thing a lot. And he's apparently called this rep at Google, and Google said, the only time this has ever happened, and it's the floor above us, and a video's totally gotten nuked, was Jesse Michaels' David Grush interview.
Yeah, right.
So
well, that happened with me, and I put him in touch with my friend in Washington in the CIA, and I said, look, they just killed this, and he got to the bottom of it. But
he did.
Yeah.
And he figured out that there was actual possible obstruction with Google. And
from what I heard was just something I mentioned got the attention of the news, and the news called NASA, and NASA's like, God, we don't want to talk about this.
What? This is crazy. Well, because Trump just designated NASA as a spy agency.
Well,
and it's already you're already you're labeling a thing that's already been the case for decades.
Right.
But this is just confirmation of that. That's what. Whoa. NASA.
This is what happened with that video with Danny. It's still got 1.2 or 3 million.
A ton of views. Do you think that NASA has other propulsion modalities?
I think they've had it a long time.
Really?
I know they were working on it a long time ago because I was asked to work on which way electrons move.
Really?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? And what is it when working on it?
Back engineering machines.
Reverse engineering UFOs.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Are the UFOs like alien reproduction vehicles that like hover and then go into space, or are they like high voltage chambers that are like portals, like in the movie Contact, where you end up in some other dimensional space?
I think there's probably both of that exists. I don't know, but
and you think NASA is sitting on this stuff?
I don't know that NASA is necessarily, but there are satellite groups that keep it under wraps. It is so far buried.
Do you think,
according to Tim, there were 2 generals at the Pentagon that knew everything?
And which general?
2. He didn't tell me.
Interesting.
Air Force generals.
Air Force generals.
See, when you go to NASA Mission Control, when you walk in there, it's a square building with a long hallway in the very middle. And when you walk down this hallway, it's glass on both sides, right? And you look to the right, here's all NASA scientists and launching, at their consoles. And you look to the left, it's exactly the same, but it's all Air Force people. So they have dual redundancy, Air Force over here and civilian on this side, running every launch. And Tim's in the middle of all of it. And then once that rocket goes up, he disappears into this one little room that has eyes on it the whole time.
What was the most interesting thing you saw with your own eyes at Cape Canaveral?
Probably, I learned some interesting things that I won't share, not on here, but I guess going into crew quarters was the greatest thing for me, because when we got there, this building had been built like in the late 50s, when they first started Mercury and launching to the moon, right? And only, according to Tim, only 300 people had ever been in that building in all those years. Only 300. And he said only one president, no congressman, anyone. And he said, don't go around sharing this, because here I am sharing it, because they might get upset why they're not allowed in this place. And those 300 people would include the staff that run the place, the den mother that's been there. I met her. She'd been there 35 years. And she has a small group of people. The doctor that lives there with the mom, the dad, and the children. So those 300 people would be John Glenn and Armstrong and their family, right? So their kids and the wives and all. So a very small group of people had been in there. And I got to tour the whole place and sit where the astronauts sit and sit in the boardroom and go in the doctor's offices and sit where they put their spacesuits on. I got to look through all that and handle it. And
it's amazing.
But I was told that when you leave from here, you'll never be the same. He said that every time that thing went up, when it came back down, something came with them and it was still there.
What came with them?
Well, whatever the spirit is, a phenomenon, something intelligent.
Whoa.
Is there. Yep.
So almost like a hitchhiker tag-along effect or something. They would go up and then they'd come back down, but they'd be hitched with some sort of spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's why he told me that, and that's why they don't let everybody in there.
And so is your take, because to me, there's something weird about the moon landing. I don't think it's necessarily fake, not like full hoax or something, but there's something that feels very managed about our perception on it. What do you think actually happened?
That's a big one, because I've learned some things since about that. I've seen some photos of the moon and some things I can't dare say. But what I saw makes me wonder, is it real? Is it an illusion? Was it put there? Tim insinuated that it wasn't there by accident, that it was set there. That's all he would say. They're very sly with their words, but
I think that's the case too.
Yeah.
It's tidal locked, so you never see the dark side. It's 1/400th the size of the sun, but 400 times closer to the Earth from the sun in this sort of perfect way. And the conventional story of how it was made makes no sense to me. The idea that there was some sort of proto-Earth and this Mars-like object hit Earth or whatever, like this massive object hit Earth. Part of the Earth's mantle came out and formed this perfect cylindrical moon.
Right.
Prima facie, you don't need to be an expert in this stuff to know that that's probably not the case, right? And then parts of it seem hollow. There seem to be caverns in it. They put seismometers on the moon, if you believe the face value story of Apollo 11, even conventional, like nobody can argue with this. They put, seismometers on the moon and it rang like a bell.
Right.
So, and then I think Gordon MacDonald, who's Eisenhower's space advisor, said the moon would only make sense if it were hollow or something like that. It's just a strange object.
It is strange, and it affects our thoughts.
You think it affects our thoughts?
Absolutely, it does.
You have this sort of, Jekyll and Hyde, like
lunacy, right? That
lunacy,
word, lunacy, lunatic. That's where it came from.
That's right.
If you go to the sheriff's department, the jails fill up on a full moon.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, and I mean, you do have, obviously women's cycles affected by the moon.
Right.
And, the idea that it doesn't affect. I don't want to go full astrology necessarily, but the idea that it doesn't affect, ecological processes or biological processes that's wrong. So then what is the extent of that effect? I don't know. But
something I saw tends to make me think that it's an illusion, or it's something I just can't say without getting.
What do you think it is? Think something about our souls?
What about the backside of it?
What do you think? Do you think there's some aliens there or beings there?
I think there's something illuminated back there.
What do you think is illuminated back there?
I don't know.
Is it like the John Lear, like soul catcher thing?
No, I don't believe in all that. But man,
so what do you think's illuminated on the backside of the moon?
I don't know, but I have to leave that.
If you were to give a high level riddle or hint,
I don't know. I just think that the backside is nothing like the front side. If you find photos of it, if they're real, it doesn't look anything like the front side. And from what I've seen, there is something behind it, hidden back there.
And Tim seemed to think that it wasn't there by accident, just the moon.
Exactly
itself.
what he told me. It wasn't by accident. Was it towed into place? That was one of the things he
Was
mentioned.
it towed into place?
Yeah. That was one of the conversations I heard.
Wow. Do you get the vibe that he has some metaphysical worldview that is more concrete? Because the average person, you talk to them about metaphysics, and if they speak in a self-assured way, they're probably full of shit.
Right.
And they're either full of shit or they're really epistemically humble. And they're like, I don't know. I take these things metaphorically and, so it's like one or the other. Right. And then occasionally, especially if you're a seeker like, you are, I am, you meet somebody and it's like, you have kind of a more concrete understanding of what's going on out there.
Right.
Do you feel like he's one of those people?
He's 100% that way. Yeah.
You feel like that?
Yeah.
And you don't think he was sort of conning you in any way? Or
no. Well, I thought that some of the things he said flew in the face of what I believed then. But now, years later, our thoughts change on this thing. And so some of the things he was telling me makes more sense today.
Do you think there's a Native American connection? A lot of people, I've interviewed Mario Woods on my show, who, is of Native American descent. And people say that, if you have, that ancestry, you might be able to get in touch with this stuff a little more easily. Other people say that about Rh negative blood. Do you think either of those things are true?
I think there's a possibility, with the blood. I'm not sure about that, but I do know that a book showed up to my house that was sent from some folks in the government, CIA, and said, read this. And it was the myths and I can't remember the whole title, but it was the ancient myths and lore of the Cherokee. And it was written by James Mooney in 1891. That's when it was published, in 1891, by James Mooney. And the book talks about the Cherokee Little People. It talks about the Thunder Boys. It talks about a missing time. It talks about all sorts of stuff in this book. And that when they gave me that, they were particularly interested if I had a Native American blood in my DNA. And so I went and had all that done through Ancestry and 23andMe. Come to find out, I'm 99% Irish, British, Scottish, so no Native American there.
Have you ever seen a UFO in a hangar?
Nope.
You just seen it in space,
or on the ground.
Do you think that the kind of security establishment in the U.S. has UFOs in its possession? They're reverse engineering them.
Well, they're big liars if they don't, because they've been saying it for years.
Yeah, they're really beating that drum right now. They are big liars.
Same story for 50, 70 years now. Yeah. We have this. We saw that. My friend saw it. I saw a letter. Here's another letter. I saw. That's all you hear, but you never see.
Yeah, that's what's so strange.
Never.
Yeah.
Difference in me, I'm sharing it. I tell you there's orbs there, and then we go out and we see them. But I'm not labeling it. And
do you feel like, because I think on Sean Ryan's show, Diana Pasulka spoke about your experience almost as if you had been like messed with or something? Do you feel like you've been
Messed with?
or manipulated in any way? Or
No. I think the phenomena has a way of doing things to trick you. You know, you hear Jacques Vallée write about the trickster. Well, that's not a bad thing. I think it's like the Adjustment Bureau. Same thing. If Jesse, if you want to go this direction, it might trick you to make you go in the opposite direction. So it's kind of controlling your path. So that would be, my view of that.
But you don't feel like the intel world has tried to shade your perception of things in any way?
I think they have.
Okay.
Yeah, they have from the beginning. They tried to make me believe in flying saucers and little green men.
Really?
Yeah, and I kept telling them, no, it wasn't like that.
Interesting.
It wasn't like that.
But so who was trying to kind of implant those ideas?
Hundreds of people within the government. I've met hundreds.
Really?
And they all go back to that. I got labeled a religious fanatic because I said it was spiritual. I've been saying it was spiritual for 19 years.
And so they were really adamant about, hey, like, let's spin this towards this, kind of alien extraterrestrial thing.
Yeah, constantly alien. What you're seeing is negative, bad.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
No, it's not cool.
So how do you explain that, what's happening there, where you have these spooky people coming into your life telling you that what you saw was alien when you know it wasn't? And then you have somebody like Jim Semivan, who's very high up at the CIA, who seems to, I assume, knows a lot about a whole lot of national security things outside of the UFO issue. But the UFO issue, he's gone very deep on for decades.
Right.
And he's being kind of an honest actor and telling you, you experience what you experienced. Do you think he was, honest with you?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a deep care for Jim, and he does my family as well. And we've shared a lot of stuff. I know about his story and Debbie's, his wife. And
so you think they're factions? Like, how do you make sense of the fact that you have one half of Intel world attempting to spin your story and like kind of manipulate you, and then you have another half that just seems kind of like good-hearted?
Well, it's kind of like this. There's a group of lower level guys that have a mission to do disinformation, push a certain narrative. But the people I'm meeting are heads of their departments, not necessarily this low level guy. I'm talking the head of the director of operations, like Jim was at the CIA. He was James Bond. That's who he was. Or
the director of operations.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Jim was, yeah.
What is that like ranking of the? So
well, he ran the whole Northern Hemisphere.
Whoa.
Everybody answered to him. Yeah, that's who he is. Very powerful guy. And his friends, I've met a lot of them from, the deputy director. And when you talk to these guys in private, they pick your brain and you start learning more that they're learning. They want to know.
That's what I've come to the conclusion of. Everybody's like, oh, it's a psyop, and they're trying to, manipulate, blah, 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 blah. And I've not been probably in as many of these rooms as you have, but I've been in some of them.
I'm sure.
And they're like, we're fans, and they're like trying to piece stuff together through. I used to be so afraid. I would do certain interviews, I'd break certain stories, and I'd be like, oh, I got too close to the truth. They're gonna come after me. And then now I'm like, oh, they're probably learning alongside me and like using, the stuff I'm learning and through open source research, like for their own shit or whatever.
Well, for the most part, they truly are people like us, and they want to know. But there's a program of guys that's involved in the UFO world, keeping that going. But do
you think, is there some, because you opened the book talking about John Alexander,
right?
John Alexander also seems to show when people experience paranormal things, like the Hutchinson effect. Right. John Hutchinson, California, sort of, metallic equipment seems to hover and like, malfunction around him. It seems to have like all these electromagnetic anomalies emitting from his body. Other cases, John Alexander will kind of consistently show up. I think he's briefed on things. Like I think he knew about Rendlesham before anybody else.
Yeah, he did. 100%. John is.
What's his deal?
John has been, let's just say he's probably the number one researcher in the paranormal world for the U.S. government, has been for many, many years.
Yeah.
His wife works studying religion as a part of this, and he's been to 92 countries doing research into everything from churches to ceremonies in Mongolia, the reindeer herders, the reindeer monk, they rode horses 100 miles. And
do you think he has a pure agenda, or do you think that
he has an agenda to find the truth?
But he does often, he'll see these things and then he'll kind of semi-debunk them. And I don't think he did in your case, but I think in other, like, the Hutchinson thing, he'll show up and he'll be like, well, it kind of works it sometimes, but it's, like if you read his writing, it's often like, it's not as magical as you think, sort of thing. Like he kind of like,
But John's more in line of, he don't look at the physical thing as being the truth of it, or the alien thing as being the truth of it. He doesn't see it that way. He's more about that's too easy. It's far more complex than that. This thing does, for example, in the 1800s, 1700s, go back and read all the reports on UFOs. People were seeing, I read a story of a sailing ship with glowing sails flying over London, and an anchor comes out and snags a chimney and breaks the top off of a chimney.
Yeah.
A flying boat, right? So here's these flying ships, sky ships they called them, for many, many years. In fact, the first report that I've heard of in America was Aurora, Texas. It was a sky ship that crashed into the wind tower, right?
1897.
And they buried an alien there. You know where they buried him?
Where?
In my family, right beside my family cemetery.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That is really trippy.
It's a Masonic cemetery.
What?
Yeah.
So do you have other trippy things like that in your family history?
Yeah, quite a bit of stuff. Tim was the one that started that research with me way back. And
really?
Diana, yeah.
So Tim is sort of an heir in some ways to John Alexander, where he's also doing a lot of this sort of paranormal research.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting to me is he has a functional job at NASA too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's part of his job.
Wow. Do you think that space, like our space travel program, is somehow related to studying these paranormal things?
Yeah.
How do you think it's related?
Well, you heard him talk about it when you were speaking about investing in a rocket company. It's up to them, right?
I don't know. I know the history of rocketry, and I know Jack Parsons thought he was in touch with, other beings and literally saw like what you could describe as a Nordic alien woman, while he was testing rockets,
right.
In California, in the Mojave Desert. I know that Tsiolkovsky, the Russian equivalent, thought he was in touch with angelic beings. Hermann Oberth, the father of the German rocket program. All of them thought that.
Thought they were angels, yeah.
So, but then I also know Elon Musk, kind of dismisses the whole alien thing. And
well, Hal Povenmire told me, and before I tell you that, we'll go back to the flying ships, right? In 1947, Kenneth Arnold sees these little chevrons flying about, and they were kind of moving freely, and half a dozen of them. And the reporter says, well, how did they move, Kenneth? And he said, well, if you took a saucer out of the cupboard and you threw it and it skipped on the water, he said, that's the way they look. Well, the reporter said, Kenneth Arnold sees flying saucers, right? So it goes out on the news, AP wire, now 1 billion plus people, has it implanted in their brain. And for the next 50 years, what did they see?
Saucers.
Flying saucers. Where'd they go?
Yeah, and
where are they? Right? Then comes a triangle in the 80s or 90s. All of a sudden, everybody's seeing triangles.
Yes.
Then I come along in 07. These big balls of fire come. MUFON's like, well, what were they? I said, I don't know. They wasn't flying saucers. They were light. They were like orbs. And so that kind of hung it. And from 2000, the last 19 years, it's been orbs.
So our perception of something celestial and in some almost like otherworld Platonic realm that we can't understand or comprehend is being sort of shaded by basically media, by like the memes that we have in our head.
Right.
That's fascinating. And to anybody, this is such a cool conversation to have with you, because I think some people throw around the term like psyop, like with you and stuff. And I'm like, the fact that you're saying all this stuff is like so the opposite of like somebody who's dogmatically like, proposing the kind of extraterrestrial hypothesis. It's like, you're basically saying like we're in some limited, epistemological realm or whatever, and we're seeing something that's unexplained, and that's a humble claim. I don't think that's...
and I'm not here to label it, because I would be lying if I told you I knew.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is 19 years of patterns. I can tell you that I get a lot of people that call me that want to tell me their story. My book empowers these people, and I get this little lady calls me one night. It's just for an example. And she's like, she said, I saw this ball of light go by my kitchen window. And I hear, she said this, she said, she's 80-something. She said, I hear tell you're the person that would know about these things. I said, well, yeah, I try to help you, so tell me what happened. She said, I was washing dishes and it came up to the window and it scared me and it went away. I said, well, what was going on with you right then? She said, I was washing dishes. I said, no, what was your life like? And as soon as she said it, I knew it's the same story for 19 years, over and over and over and over. 1,000 times is my husband died the week before. And it's always the same. People start seeing this stuff. I had a near death. My daughter died, my mom died, my son died, or something. Horrible.
I think
it's always that way.
It's almost like, I think about them showing up at nuclear sites, which they seem to show up at. And if there was some Archimedes lever point of most leverage to shift timelines on like a global scale, it would be there. And then in somebody's life, maybe you'd show up at peak highs and peak lows, and sort of the peaks and the valleys or something.
Right.
And I wonder if that's the case. I wonder if...
Well,
is that anecdotally your case? I mean, do you think people even in like kind of peak states also see them? Because that's been my anecdotal understanding.
Yeah, I think it's possible, right? But I do know that the majority of the people witnessing this now is different, because it's coming. It's revealing itself, and there's no stopping that. It's going to reveal itself completely. And it's, what it's doing is cracking people's consciousness just a little bit. Makes you think. It may not convert that person, but they're like, oh my God, there is something out there. So it's expanding our consciousness.
Do you think other people think that you are the Messiah?
I've been asked to, yeah, but I don't see that. I'm just a poor guy that has had a hard time. Yeah. And it's not been easy. It's been a burden more than anything. And I'm just a messenger. I know that I can share this with people, and after I do, then it's yours. You can connect with it from then. So it's not like something that I have. It's something that everybody has a right to.
Do you feel like you have an understanding of metaphysics that's deeper than the average person's? Like, is there some sort of thing that you can relay about how the world works?
No, I'm still trying to figure that, but in a nut in a shell, I know that we're not in control. That our thoughts are completely understood by something above us that knows everything about you. It knows your heart. It knows your intentions. And it will guide you or it will tear you down if you're going the wrong way. That's the trickster part of it. But is that bad? You know, it's intended for you to marry this person, not that one. It might do what it takes to get you to meet this person.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's your job to be receptive and to kind of ride the wave or listen to the synchronicities.
Yeah, that's what I do. I listen to the synchronicities, but my job is to share a truth that everyone's been told is not real. And I caught so much problem from the community. In 2007, when this happened, half my family, 2/3 of my family, I quit speaking to, my own cousins and family. And it was because they wouldn't believe me, or I was being accused of messing with the devil, right? And so they actively got hard on me and tried to remove my children from me. That was early on, right after it happened. And so I kind of took offense to everyone. And I made a vow then, I'm going to prove them all wrong. I'm going to prove the world wrong. That's what I said. Made that, and I worked on it pretty hard for 19 years of revealing something that nobody says is real. And what that is, I can't tell you with 100% certainty, but I can tell you 19 years of patterns and never no harm to me or anyone else that has experienced this. And I've shared it with thousands of people.
Do you think the idea of disclosure is kind of a misnomer? It's the idea that the government can disclose some sort of like metaphysical truth that they have this asymmetric understanding of.
Yeah, I think we're in post-disclosure. Disclosure is not an announcement. They're never going to give you the secrets. You know, if they have a machine, you're not going to see it. And I wouldn't want them to, because somebody else could get a hold of it and it could be terrible, right? So it's national security. They're never going to give you that. So they're just going to give a talk all the time. We have. Disclosure is a one person at the time awakening. Suddenly you see it's real. You saw an orb. Oh my God, what was it? I don't know what it was, but it wasn't an airplane. And it stopped and it came up to me and it flashed me and it went away. Well, that absolutely changes everybody's world paradigm. It just completely changes it and sets you on a different course. So awakening or disclosure is for those. There's a lot of people that's already that knows. And so I don't think the government's going to ever announce anything. They're just going to keep telling you we have this or we saw that and make people get curious and start investigating.
What do you think people's relationship should be to your story? Because on the one hand, you were cured of Crohn's disease.
Right.
And I know you've had some other physical challenges since then, but that's a really major thing that kind of you were alleviated by, and presumably linked to this kind of, amazing event in January of 2007. Do you think people can experience spontaneous healings, and should they go for that, or should they go for the like incremental kind of more deliberate thing? Like, is that it feels like catching lightning in a bottle, like how can that happen in a repeatable way unless Jesus is real or something and can heal us?
Well, I said earlier, maybe we have our own power to heal ourselves. We just don't know it. And
do you feel like you healed yourself in that instance, or they healed you?
I think they healed me, and I think that they will heal, or they can heal you. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it happen in Australia over the phone, long distance. That's it. And magic happens at that point. And I don't claim that as me doing it. I'm just the mediator guy. I just present her picture to the heaven.
Yeah.
So, it's all thought and intention. Our thoughts are very powerful, and our intentions.
I know they are. Yeah, they really are.
Right.
And they, everything was once a thought. And I think thoughts have a much greater effect on reality than just thought converts to action, which produces this mechanical sort of, pinball machine, which ends up doing a thing.
Right.
There's clearly something else going on that I think will be proven out by science.
I think you're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a space program involving consciousness that's deeper than, because you think about, there's this, 17th century Swedish mystic, Emanuel Swedenborg, and he described, going up into the cosmos and seeing all these, stars and planets.
Right.
And you've had out of body experiences and
Right.
you've been to the Monroe Institute.
Right.
If I was forming some, sleeper cell space program that might be able to traverse farther than just NASA nuts and bolts craft.
Right.
If you believe remote viewing is a real modality, you have to believe some sort of astral space travel is also real.
It is real.
So do you think there's some sort of vital program in the government that involves consciousness-based space travel?
I think they've attempted that and still are trying to.
They have to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you even watch Carl Sagan's Contact, and it's like, that's kind of what you're touching on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or Christopher Nolan, who you watch Interstellar, and then you read The Physics of Interstellar by Kip Thorne, and it's like, if anybody was kind of dripped some interesting info,
right,
it probably would have been, Nolan.
Right.
And it's just so fast. It's like this fifth dimensional space that, where you can travel kind of maybe between timelines, and then when you die, you're able to, traverse that. And it's sort of hard to talk about a lot of these things, but
that's a big one. I believe when we die, that based on the photo evidence I have, you may have some of that I shared with Anna.
Right. Oh yeah. In fact, it's going to come out on our pod where she shows some really interesting photos.
Well, you see photos with people in them,
Mm-hmm.
or children or animals. Where did I get that? How did I get those? And this was right after the lady came. And at that time, I didn't have a video camera. I had a cell phone with the flip phone, right? But I went out and bought a little pocket camera, a little Instamatic. And I started taking just every night. I wasn't able to get anything before, but from that point forward, I did. And it's like my dog died. I wrote about this in the book. I was with Tim at Cape Canaveral for a week, and some guys from the NRO, and we were meeting and at a launch, and I'd been there all week, and it was Saturday. The launch finally went off Saturday, delayed all week. My wife knew I was coming home at Sunday morning or Sunday night. I was going to leave after the launch Saturday night, get up Sunday morning, drive home. So at 4:00, it was over. I said, Tim, I'm going to Fayetteville. So I got in my car and I took off. Didn't tell anybody. Drove all night long, all night. Pulled over to rest area. It's 13 hours, right, from my house to there. Pulled over and took a nap. 8:30 Sunday morning, I drove in the yard. When I drove in the yard, I knew immediately that my Labrador was dead. I knew it. I can't tell you how I knew it, but I knew it. It just came right into my mind. I saw it all. I felt it. My kids and family had buried her in the backyard 3 days before. Never told me because they didn't want me upset, right? It was like my child, this 90-pound Labrador, female named Nellie. I opened the front door and walked in. My wife's asleep at the front door in the living room on the couch. House full of kids. They'd been up all weekend. They had invited all their friends. So Mom kind of would stay near the front where all the bedrooms were. Our little girl she was the only girl, right? So she's doing her patrol to keep any boys away from her. That's what moms do. So I walk in the door and I open it. She looks up at me. I said, "What happened to my dog?" And her eyes got big. And she said, "Oh my God, how did you know?" I said, "Well, I felt her." She said, "Well, she ran out in the road and got run over by a car. And we buried her in the backyard." So I thought about it all day. And that night I thought, she don't know she's dead. That's how I knew it. Because when I turned off the road right where she was killed, it just kind of felt her, saw her in my thoughts. So I took a little white candle. I went out to her grave and I lit it. And I told her, I said, I'll be with you again. Just go to the light. And she comes up out of her grave in a little ball of light, and I took that picture. And that's how I got that.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you should have a copy of it.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
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 We could put that up.
So what does that tell you? You know, what does that tell you? And I've got people, lots of people and children. In fact, I have a child. My wife and I lost a child. We have 4, but we lost a child. And I was out thinking about him, and this lonely orb, there it comes. And I took a picture of it, and there was a child. Yeah.
In the orb.
In the orb, and this is my screenshot.
Wow.
I'll show you.
Oh my God.
See,
That's a real photo.
That's a photo of a child, and it's a ball of light.
That's a real photo.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So what does that tell you? I believe that I think that we're in a simulation, or we're in this avatar, that we experience time because of our body. But beyond the body, there is no time. And I think when we die, that we go back to that eternal place, which is, in church, they tell you it's somewhere way far away, but I think it's just around us.
Yeah. Well, time is created by the mind and the body, and time is the most used noun in the English language, but nobody knows how to define it without respect to the movement of bodies or things.
Right.
It's always something defined relative to something else. So if you're doing that over and over again, then it has to be this soup that you're swimming in where you can't get out of it.
Exactly.
You're like in water, and you don't, it's like this David Foster Wallace speech where he goes, "This is water," and it's like you're a fish in water. You have no idea what you're in. We're in this stream of time. There's no way out of it. There's no way to talk about it. And really,
there's no words for it.
There's no words for it. That photo is amazing.
Yeah.
Can we show this to like a NASA photo instrumentation person?
Yeah, I don't care. A lot of them have already seen it.
Okay.
I tell you, I was at, just to tell you how it is with NASA, I was in the Capitol Hill Club.
Mm-hmm.
When the hearing, the recent hearing that happened, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, it was Anna Brady and a bunch of those friends of hers, and without using names, and we were having hors d'oeuvres with Eric Burleson and Anna Luna, right?
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, we went out and did a sky watch on the Library of Congress, right? We were up on the platform, and suddenly this orb appears, and for 45 minutes it did figure eights over the Capitol and the White House.
So, and Burleson saw it.
No, Burleson wasn't there. He had gone home, but Anna was there.
Anna was there.
And a whole group of other people. Eric Zydak from PG&E Power. Donna Roberts from the International Space Station. She was standing next to me. Others, I can't say their name. But they've come out publicly, this group. Tracy McGill. She's an analyst for the DOD, I think.
Whoa. Fascinating.
So they all got to experience it while we were having dinner. You were talking about NASA people. This guy walks up and he gives me a big hug. He said, "Chris, I'm a huge fan." And he introduced me to his son. We'd never met, right? But he was one of the highest ranking guys at NASA. He walks up and hugs me and says, "I'm a huge fan of yours." NASA. Yeah. So
why is NASA publicly?
It's their policy.
They're gaslighting
the people
public.
there. The people there are just like me and you.
It's so funny because it's like you see them publicly, and it's like they're doing this thing on 3i Atlas,
right?
And it's like the photo is the resolution of, it's like you're looking at a lamppost.
Yeah,
Like a
right.
lamp, on a, it's like a street light or something. Like
Yeah,
it's
right.
horrible. And the amateur astronomers are getting better stuff.
Exactly.
And then privately they're going to you saying we're big fans.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It's a little frustrating. It's like,
Yeah.
can you close the gap a little bit between your public and your private, perception?
Yeah. One thing Hal
things?
told me, Hal Povenmire,
Mm.
we loved him. My children loved Hal because he became, my dad died in 2013 and Hal came in 2008 and
You just showed up at your door, right?
yeah, knocked on the door in
This NASA guy
2008,
showing
right?
up at your door.
And so he'd come 3 or 4 times a year and stay a week at the time. And his biggest thing was my children. They would bring school friends over and he'd have a big, he loved kids. So he'd pull out Mastodon teeth and tech tights. And it was just a big party of science and he loved that. But Hal told me he died in 2019. He died in 2019. He was coming to our house for Thanksgiving, he and Katie. And he fell and hit his head and went in a coma and never woke up. Right? But he told me right before he died, he said, Chris, I want to tell you one thing. He said, I've wondered for many years. He said, what this phenomenon is. Oh, I know all about it. He said, I've seen it all. He said, but we've always been on the fence of what it is we're dealing with. But he said, when I know now, to me, it's, he believed it was angelic. They were always on the fence of what it is. But he observed it with me a lot and saw its nature and how it would react to certain words and certain prayer.
And was he religious?
Well, he wasn't religious at all, but he was, toward the end of his life, he became, very open in prayer and stuff.
That'll make you religious.
Yeah.
Tim Taylor had a conversion, right, at the Vatican, where he converted to Catholicism.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating.
So that's where this thing takes you.
Yeah.
It takes you down that path. If you interact with it, it will.
There's an apocryphal quote that's often attributed to Werner Heisenberg. And, he's this amazing physicist,
Right.
but he was also in charge of the German nuclear program under the Nazis. But also a much deeper philosophical guy, and he regretted his kind of role in that stuff. And he says, the first sip of the bottle, of science makes you an atheist, but when you get to the bottom, you find God at the bottom.
Right.
Or whatever.
That's where Hal was at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly what it was.
Yeah. That photo you showed me with the child in the orb, that looks exactly like in 2001 Space Odyssey at the end of the movie, where Bowman, he's, going up on the ship, and then he ends up, I don't know what happens, but it's this weird, bizarre, surreal scene, and you see the monolith, and then all of a sudden it cuts to this baby hovering over the earth in this like orb capsule thing.
Yeah, crazy, right?
And I remember watching that. It's one of those things where I'm like, I am too unenlightened and dumb to know what this means,
Right.
but I know it means something. And that's what a lot of the UFO topic is. It's like the sound of the one hand clapping, the Zen koan. You're like, and it just makes you want to go further.
Right.
And you're like, you see something, you're like, you don't quite know what it means, but you're like, there's something about that. They're saying this, and if anybody knew kind of, some deeper truths about reality, like I do think Arthur C. Clarke, Stanley Kubrick, guys like that
Absolutely.
were tapped into something deeper. And so that photo tripped me out because I'm like, what did they know? And, is that photo, somehow lining up with what they knew?
I think they probably knew a lot more than they had to. And the government knows a lot more. But everybody that's anybody in the ranks wants to see this stuff. They want to know about it.
Yeah, I believe it. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Does the stuff you know about the dark side of the moon point towards sort of a simulated world?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, then you get into these things around like why can't we have disclosure? you can't say that official. If you're in some like official government position, you cannot say like I want as much disclosure as humanly possible. But like if you're Trump, yeah, that might be tough. That might be a tough one.
Exactly.
You go up there on the podium, you go, we're in a simulated universe.
Yeah, right.
You're everything is, you're in a karmic whirlpool where you get stuck. You experience the same thing over and over again, but with a different veneer. Time is actually an illusion, and that veneer is just the changing of memes that are implanted in your head by some alien thing. Like if you start to go deeper into that,
exactly.
like, where does that lead? Where does that lead? That leads to a very, and I think we might be headed there anyways. I don't think we need authority figures necessarily to say these things.
I think what's going to happen is that basically the way I see this is consciousness is just one big unified field, right? It's all one. And everything that exists is in that one, from the ghosts to the aliens or to the angels and to us. And I think we're in the process of humanity's rolling into that next dimension. In other words, it'll be a world of where we all in it, where we see it more, and it's part of our reality. It's shifting. And when it's
so fascinating. It's so interesting. It's so fun to talk to you because I think a lot of people have said, "Oh, like it's like you're too open-minded or something." Is the the critique or something? I have a lot of critiques hurled at me, so don't take that
I get
personally. But I think so. I think if you believe in the parapsychology stuff, which I do, that there's some sort of mind-matter connection.
Absolutely.
Then I think there's a correlation between openness and your effect on the material world, or like what you perceive as well.
Right.
And so I think inherently there will be at times errors made due to that openness because you're sifting in this area that is so uncharted.
Exactly.
But you're also gonna come upon like really core deep truths. And I don't know if you can have one without the other. And so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I'm sure I've explored all sorts of like crazy stuff, but in reality, I think I think my worldview is actually sometimes crazier than I can even communicate via the show.
Yeah.
And it's really about catching people up, epistemically, and like taking people through this like rigorous, like, well, let's start with the foundation. Like that photo is real. It's been verified. Like you need to do that because we're in this materialist reductionist scientific paradigm.
Right.
But and you'll make a lot of errors along the way. But yeah, it's this really kind of hard thing because you make one error and you get these kind of debunker skeptic types, and they'll just hang on that one error for the whole. And it's they're seeing what they want to see.
Well, the thing, people give these debunkers and skeptics too much power.
Yeah.
I don't even pay them attention.
Yeah.
To me, they're just uninformed.
Well, I think the thing that deflates them too is like, I'll admit, like I've gotten a ton of stuff wrong. Like, and I hope you would admit that too. Yeah,
I have. I changed. We learned.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and as long as you can adapt with
right.
new information that comes in, then this is all. It's really new territory. So,
well, there's no book.
No.
There's no vocabulary for this. None.
Mm-mm.
It's all invisible, and we have to create a vocabulary for it, and we got to put a story to it, right? As humans do that. So you're constantly adjusting that as you go and pulling all the information together, and down the road you think, well, what you thought before is not correct, so it could be different. So I leave an open mind to it. I try not to label it, but I will go so far as to say that it's been benevolent, and I've seen healings from it, and I know how it answers when I say certain words. It gets excited.
Which words?
The lady.
Really?
So you got to say.
The lady.
The lady.
Interesting.
Yep. When you start talking about her, and I can do this, I could take a group of people outside at night. I've done it over and over and over. Take a mic if we got a big enough group. It's gotten pretty simple because, and I shouldn't say it's simple, it's complex, but still it's happened so much that it's pretty crazy.
Do you think there are air pockets of consensus reality? And what I mean by that is like, do you think, the Mandela effect?
Yeah.
So this idea that, a lot of people in the 90s thought that Mandela died in prison, which he obviously didn't,
Right.
Do you think that reality might work more like that than we think? And so certain mystical experiences happen and the people with eyes to see and ears to hear experience it. And then other people walk away and they're like, yeah, I don't know, there's a thing that happened or whatever. Or,
Right.
or they like will superimpose some prosaic explanation upon the thing. And reality itself is far more fractured, malleable, and in the eye of the beholder than one would
Yeah, and
think.
it's changing. It's constantly changing, like the Mandela effect you talked about. One thing that surprised me is my wife and I have been married 43 years, right? So our honeymoon was in New York City. We'd never been there, either one of us. We had a plan. We wanted to see the train station, Grand Central Station, right? So we go to Grand Central Station and we get photos and videos, and we took a helicopter ride, and we did all kinds of things to experience New York. And so I'm looking at my old photos of Grand Central Station, right? Well, Google it now. It's not called that. It's called Grand Central Terminal, and it says it's never been called that. But yet I got photos of Grand Central Station written on the thing.
Yeah.
But you see it now, it says Grand Central Terminal. What's that about?
Well, it's the Flintstones, the Berenstein Bears, all these things where people swear that it was like a one way, and then you look at the record and it actually looks like there's another way.
Yeah.
And that it is this really amazing phenomena. And then you get into deeper studies, like there's this neuroscientist Wilder Penfield, and you realize that there is no way of distinguishing between false memories and true memories. And he shows this with the ability to implant false memories into mice and stuff. And then you get, if there are these beings and any thoughts can be sort of implanted, you get into really weird ontological territory where the past, and even Schrodinger himself would say, a particle is measured in the present, it might change its past.
Right.
And you get into retrocausality in quantum mechanics. There's obviously spooky action at a distance, but there's also spooky action across time.
Right.
It seems like if you have two entangled photons and two double slit experiments run with those entangled photons, seems like photon B that you're doing the experiment with 2 days in the future, if you measure that and you don't measure the first one, the measurement of the one in the future is affecting the one of the measurement in the past.
Exactly.
There's a great book called Biocentrism that this guy Robert Lanza writes about this stuff. So you get into really trippy territory where the past becomes, the present is this constricted present, but it's like an hourglass where you have probable futures and probable pasts.
Right.
And the present is this measurement sensor that is single line of code updating the past and maybe updating the future at the same time.
Right.
And it's this very strange sort of model, but there's no real way to argue against that other than physical artifacts. So if you have physical artifacts around an event happening, you can argue, say this is evidence that this happened this way or this happened another way. If you have conflicting physical artifacts or you don't have physical artifacts, it's totally one word against the other word.
Exactly.
Or you can get into like numbers of people who believe one thing or numbers of people that believe another thing. But we have no idea how reality works.
We have no idea.
We have a very limited, we are measurement sensors. And so, this idea that science is some ontological statement of truth, like, no, it's the map. It's not the territory.
Exactly.
It's just, we see like very limited scopes of reality.
Right.
And time is the weirdest thing of all.
Yeah. That has messed with me ever since I went there and saw that. And now everything I dig up, it says it was never called that.
Yeah, Grand Central. Yeah.
But
it's
the
funny,
sign
as you said,
was on the wall.
Central Station. I was like, oh, of course, Grand Central Station.
We'll go Google it now, though. It's not that.
Grand Central Terminal. It doesn't even sound as good.
Yeah, it's always been named that according to this.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means, but it was really It really opened my eyes to how weird this world we live in really is.
How do you juggle, you know, a lot of these concepts might seem crazy to the average person. How do you juggle just facing, you know, relationships, issues, things in your own life versus these kind of deeper celestial metaphysical truths? Those two things seem kind of hard to juggle. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he has all these teachers, you know, kind of in the Eastern tradition. He's kind of his own mystic in a sense. And I think I can say this actually. His name's Duncan Trussell, and he's I actually just met him. He's an amazing comedian, but I felt a kinship with him. Right. And he said his teachers all said that, and these are like Eastern, you know, kind of Buddhists, say that, you know, they know that the celestial realm exists, but they ignore it because what we need to do is here on Earth. We have this kind of karmic path laid out in front of you. So I'm sure a lot of people have this sort of escapist orientation towards this subject where they say, oh, well, take me up on the craft, you know? Right. So how do you reconcile those two things?
I don't. I mean, it's mind-bending, the whole thing. I'm still grappling with that, you know, to this very day. And I focus on, right now, my main focus is on the Rosetta Stone.
Really? Why is your focus on the Rosetta Stone?
Because I believe that I think I can get there. I think I know it's talking. I know it is. I know it's talking multiple ways, not just telepathically, because that's hard to prove or explain, but I'm sure it's talking through frequency, through the light, pulses of light, with the right sensors and even some sort of Morse code or something. Multiple ways is trying to communicate. I've seen it. I know it. And I think one day we'll get there.
You think the Rosetta Stone is trying to communicate with you?
I think that phenomenon is trying to talk to us, and to find that Rosetta Stone, you know, that's just...
you're saying
the language. I want to find the language of this.
Of the beings.
Yeah. And it's putting it out right now. It's talking. We just got to study it, and I'm working on a way to do that.
Do you think their language is discoveries, like the discoveries we make? What do you think the language is? Do you think it's a literal symbols and hieroglyphics? Because people say on the crafts that, you know, they see these sort of hieroglyphics.
Yeah. I've heard biblical texts and all on them too.
And you think we'll be able to decode this?
I think we can get actual real-time communication through the light and through sensors if we can gather enough data.
How would we do this?
Put it in a quantum AI computer. And there's two of them that I could probably get access to.
So you're working on this?
I'm working on it, yeah.
Have you decoded anything yet?
Not, well, we're working on it. That's all I can say.
It sounds like you have decoded a little thing.
Well, some, yeah.
Anything you can give us?
Enough to get me going full time.
I'm saying anything you can give us as far as hints as to what you've decoded.
Well, just that I know it's there, and I think we'll get there in the next 4 or 5 years, maybe longer.
Do you think there's something special about the pyramids that we'll learn soon or something? Because I mean, one of your experiences was around the pyramids. Obviously, Hathor.
Well, I'm hearing that next year that something might be revealed from there.
What will it be?
Well, without getting ahead of what I was told this week, I've been invited to go down there and be involved in something that is going to release something that was hidden.
Interesting. And what? Something under the pyramids?
Possibly.
Like a little energy grid thing?
Or? They didn't tell me that.
Okay.
They just invited me to be a part, and the Egyptian Antiquities authorities are part of it.
Fascinating. Well, I just interviewed the guy that did the synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography scans of the structure under the Khafra chamber of the Giza pyramid. And
I can't say that's what it is. I can just say I got a call from the right people that wants me to be a part next year.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So I think something's coming from there that's going to be real interesting.
Wow.
Like changing, thought changing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Danny Jones, it was funny. Danny Jones, I think, came into your interview with him, maybe a little skeptical, but then he said he saw an orb with you outside of a diner or something.
Well, he called me. He's like, I want you on my show. I'm like, Danny, I'd love to be on your show, but you got to do something for me. I want to come a day or two early, and I want to make you a believer, not a skeptic. Because our interview will go differently if you're a believer. And he said, okay. So we flew down, my daughter and I, and my wife, and we had dinner there in Clearwater. Went over to Indian Rocks Beach, out on the beach, and he had his assistant with him with a camera. And I said, well, let's watch out of the ocean, because I can get it out. It appears up out of the ocean. When I ask it, it's just like out of the sky. It comes up out of the sea. And suddenly here it came, 2 of them.
Wow.
And he filmed it. We all filmed it.
Was he freaking out?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We did that last week in California with some pretty amazing people.
Wow. He also, Danny said I think he cut a small part of your interview where you talked about a neuralizer, like some machine that erased your memory after seeing something.
Yeah, I had to not talk about that.
You're not supposed to talk about that?
No.
But there is something like that you experienced?
I saw the patterns on it.
Really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's freaky if the government has something that can do that.
Well, let's just say they can transmit chemicals through radio waves.
Do you think they can transmit thoughts through radio waves?
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy. Well, then I get into all sorts of weird territory. Like what is the whole UFO phenomena some paranormal plague from the thought transmission?
What if you were to see this alien appeared right here and you saw it and you weren't supposed to? What if it can shoot you with something that would erase your thoughts that you never remember?
So you think the aliens can do that, or the beings can do that? You do. Why are you high conviction in that? Seems like something where inherently, if they can erase.
Well, I kind of learned some stuff on that, and I saw the patents on it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And you think they're real patents?
Well, it was the U.S. Patent Office talking about it.
Damn. It's kind of crazy.
But it's hidden away. It's stuffed away somewhere. Dangerous technology. So they could shoot you with a chemical, drugs, or anything from 100 yards.
A few people have come on my show saying things like that. I never know what to make of it, because I'm like, it's just, I don't know.
Just trust me.
I don't want to. I want that to not be true.
Was from our original conversations.
So with like Hal Poppenmeyer. Or with Tim Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you the world is a weird place. I mean, just the fact that you went to Zanesville, Ohio. Did you learn anything else about Townsend Brown while you were out there?
I never knew who he was until I got to Zanesville with Tim, and then he began to unfold who he was and how he was working with his daughter to finish a book about her father. And I learned the whole story, as much as he would tell me, about his having visitors come and land.
Did Tim Taylor believe that Townsend Brown made real anti-gravity breakthroughs as a scientist?
I can't tell you that he believed that or not, but he felt it strong enough that he was, I think I'm speculating.
Sure.
Yeah.
Have you heard other stories of experiencers being shown a piece of metal and basically evaluated to see how they react to the metal?
Yeah, he told me he'd only ever seen 2 other reactions.
Did he mention who reacted to the metal?
He said, but it was nothing like what I saw here.
Yeah. Well, there's a story of Werner von Braun showing Uri Geller a piece of metal,
right.
And he says, that's not from here.
Werner von Braun takes me into his personal office. There's a safe in the office. He opens the safe. I see a piece of metal. I've never seen such a color. Pulls it out. It's not heavy. Says, Uri, touch this. Tell me what you feel now. I put my hand on it and I say, Werner, this is not from here. He says, you're right. This is a piece of a UFO that crashed on our planet. You know, I'm mind blown because as a child, I used to sneak into movie theaters in Tel Aviv to see films on extraterrestrial life. And this is coming from the mouth of Werner von Braun.
Exactly. I saw some things about this metal. In fact, I had a lot of photos of it I had to delete. They were classified, right? But I've seen some of it in real time on electron microscope. And what I saw, there were different types, but it was moving. The one piece, I have a picture, where it looks like a universe swirling around and around with all the galaxies and stuff inside. That's what the piece from Zanesville cut, that little sliver, that's what it looked like. Actually moving. This other piece I saw was red. It appeared red, but it were thousands of little blocks, little square blocks, and they were self-moving and stacking themselves.
They were moving in the material?
It's like replicating or something.
What? They were moving in the material?
Yeah, this material is like living material.
And this is from Zanesville, or?
Well, it was a piece I saw. I assume it was from Zanesville. The piece, not the red, I don't know where that came from, but the green. I'll show you the green.
What?
Yeah. I'll show you I don't have the video of it, but I have a snapshot of it.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
That is wild.
Yeah. Wow. Moving like a universe, swirling around and around. And the elements in that metal, I was told, had 51 elements in it. And the most classified, we can only blend at that time, he told me, about 15 elements. Humans could only figure out how to make 15 elements blend. But this had 51. One of the elements was human DNA. And he's like, how did that get in there? And plutonium. Who puts plutonium in metal?
Wait, plutonium? Human DNA was in this metal?
Yep. And plutonium? Yep.
What?
And he's like, how do they put human DNA in metal? And then they figured out in zero gravity how to bond ceramic to metal. And then they were able to put human DNA into the ceramic. And now your hip joints and all that, they don't fail anymore. It's all in our medical devices. Nobody realizes it. That's NASA's.
Because my understanding is most manufacturing and space initiatives haven't succeeded. Like, there's a company called Made in Space, and it was always this kind of academic project, and it never quite got off the ground. But you could in zero G do all sorts of things that you can't on the ground.
Right.
So, but you're saying there might be some secret stuff going on.
Oh, sure.
Interesting.
Absolutely. But they were able to bond ceramic to the metal and human DNA into the ceramic. But they couldn't do it. Whoever did it, however it was done, we can't duplicate it.
Wow. Wow. Well, Chris, this is a blast, man. I love speaking to you, and I think we could go on all day. But there's so many threads I feel like I need to follow up on just from this conversation alone. So we'll have to run it back, and maybe I can come to Fayetteville. And
I would love for you to.
That'd be a blast, man. I appreciate it.
You should come. In fact, maybe we get you to the coast, like on the beach.
Yeah.
For a couple, 3 nights, and we'll get a group there and blow your mind.
That sounds amazing, man. Count me in.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming to Austin, Texas on such short notice. And, I know you travel a ton. And so just coming out here for a day, it really means a lot to me.
Believe it or not, in the last 3 weeks, I left Fayetteville, North Carolina. I went to Orange County, met with Sammy and a group of guys, and then went up to Hollywood, met Margot Robbie and some other people. Left there, went back to North Carolina, dropped my wife off, flew back to New York, met some people there, took a train down to D.C., met Anna and some others there, then came home one day and I'm back here. So it's been just burning the road up for 3 or 4 weeks. And
wow.
That's why I called you last night. I was so exhausted. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm beat, Jesse. So, or I'd have been here last night with you guys, going to dinner or sky watching or something.
Yeah, no worries. Well, this was really fun, and no, we'll do it again, and I'll come your way next time. And
perfect.
That's a crazy schedule for somebody who's already gone through all the stuff you've gone through. So
it don't end here. It goes for the next 18 days. I'm back to New York, to Pennsylvania, to DC, and then to Wilmington for the World Forum. And yeah, I want to make sure I plug the World Forum.
Okay, what is that?
It was created by Mikhail Gorbachev back in the 90s. In 95 to 2000, there was a 5-year event that ended up in New York City when they dropped the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Bono was there, U2, they did the opening. But it was the leaders of the world basically all came together to talk about the Y2K because they thought the world was in trouble, right?
Yeah.
We had to have a conversation. And so now for the next 5 years, this year until 2030, they're going to convene the World Forum again, and it'll be Avi Loeb speaking, Dr. Diana Hennessy Powell, and there's about 30 speakers, and we were going to have it in D.C. at the Omni Shores this year, but because of the travel and the flights and also we're going to make it virtual this year. And I'll be speaking on there a time or two, but my big thing is on the 14th, the 15th, 16th, and 17th, we're going to have a group down on the beach at Wrightsville. About 40 of us doing a sky watch, and we're going to broadcast it through the World Forum.
Cool.
To the world. Yeah.
Epic. All right. Well, go check that out. Buy UFO of God. And keep checking out cool stuff that Chris does. And I really appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, Jesse, for having me. It's been too long, right?
It's been way too long, a long time coming. But you know what? Things happen in their time. And
right.
I think there is the questions and the conversation we had this time around is going to be, it's much better than maybe what would have been a year and a half ago. Or
absolutely. Something. I've learned a lot since then. I've learned that I don't know anything, right?
Same with me, man. The deeper I get, the more I'm confused.
Yeah, I say it all the time. The more I learn, the less I know, right?
Well, that's literally true. Because if you think of your knowledge base as, say, it's like a sphere, the sphere grows, and then the questions are the space around the sphere.
Right.
So the questions are going to grow at an exponent of the sphere growing.
Right.
And so the more you know you don't know.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think the most knowledgeable people I know are the most epistemically humble, and they're like, I don't know, because he just gets more and more confusing.
It does. Like I say, there's no language for this. So
no.
Each step, you got to come up with something different,
Yes. But it's like if you're going into kind of higher dimensional spaces, or like where there's more variables or more information, you do just have to have a better sensor. Like you need to you need to be able to audit yourself better.
Exactly.
And, so as long as you can do that.
I learned that a long time ago. Just admit you don't know. Don't label this thing, and I try not to, because I can't tell you 100% certain anything. None of us can. Nobody can.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you it's magical. It's been beautiful, and it's real. And I'll leave it at that. And I can share it with others. And if I can't, my children can.
Yeah,
they have it in them the same.
Do you think there have been any attempts to censor you on any other media or podcasts?
A lot.
So like how so?
Well,
and what's the motive? And what's an example, and what's the motive?
I think that there's the narrative is it's dark and ugly and evil, leave it alone.
Yeah, but you have such a positive healing story.
Well, and that's why.
And then, they want it to be this like
dark and ugly. Don't mess with it. We might lose control of the people if you so they don't like me sharing this at all.
Mm. Mm. It's very
I've been
interesting.
told that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I've been told 2 or 3 times you're doing disclosure.
Yeah.
Don't do. We're going to do. You're getting ahead of us.
Yeah. Any examples of censorship that you've like?
Danny Jones.
Really?
That video and a whole lot more.
What did Danny? Oh, Danny Jones is the videos getting throttled.
Yeah. That was censorship. That thing was going to 150,000 views a day.
What was it specifically that you think got it knocked?
That was me mentioning about some technology at Mission Control.
Okay.
And I don't want to say that again.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Got it. That's wild, though.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. You back channeled, and you figured out that NASA was literally censoring.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, Google or whoever's controlling that.
Yeah, well, there's gotta be
but they
connection
sent
there.
the word. That's what I was told.
There has to be a connection there.
It was about a technology.
Yeah, I mean, Immaculate Constellation, which came out in the Schellenberger, testimony, this November 2024 hearing. Immaculate Constellation had like a search spike when David Grush came out in, I think, August or September of 2023. So it's like, you can't make that up,
right?
And if that's the case, that's like,
it's kind of what happened with me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and then I think there's a manipulation of Google Trends because this guy Rob Jones, who I've gotten to know a little better since then, and seems very high trust, high credibility. He found the spike, and then the spike got deleted.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're telling me that Google doesn't have some sort of backdoor around special access programs being named, they don't have a connection with the DoD around that, you're crazy.
Absolutely.
You're the conspiracy theory. Like, come on. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
I would have sold twice as many books already. Guarantee you. They've cost me a lot of book sales because of shadow banning or yeah.
Well, I think it's piercing through. I think a lot of people love your story and are reading your book, and whatever censorship may or may not be occurring, I don't think it's really hampering you in a serious way.
Right.
So,
well, we're pushing through. Right?
There you go.
They can't keep the light out, right? The light gets through cracks, and
yeah. Well, that's this whole subject. It's like, you don't distrust everything I say or you say or anybody else. Like the world is, I think, shifting in this sort of
100%
serious way, and like I fundamentally believe that, and I see it and I feel it. So
that's that new knowledge that's coming.
Yes. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Cool.
Absolutely.
All right.